You don't want
Show
to
me.
be here till
He will.
I don't want to be here till 9 o'clock.
Good afternoon.
To 3 minutes. Oh, yeah.
Good afternoon.
What do you want? Limit public comment 3 minutes, what you're saying?
And us.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the City of Muskegon Planning Commission meeting for July 11th, 2024. We'll begin with a roll call, please.
Commissioners Johnson,
Here.
Garon,
Sure.
Leroy,
Here.
Seifert,
Here.
Keener, Mazay,
Here.
Montgomery Keast,
Here.
Blake, here.
Yay, future 16. Yes.
Okay, we have a quorum, so we'll begin the meeting. We'll begin the meeting with the approval of minutes for the meeting of June 13, 2024.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support to approve the minutes for the meeting of June 13, 2024. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Well, we'll move into the public hearings, and for the audience's benefit, I'll let you know how we'll handle these public hearings. We'll begin with a staff report. After the staff makes a report, the planning commissioners will have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff. After that, the petitioner will have an opportunity to present any information that they wish to. After that, then the planning commissioners again will have an opportunity to ask questions of the petitioner. And then after that occurs, then we'll open it up to the public for public comments. After that occurs, we'll close the public hearing and take action on the matter. So with that, let's begin on item 3A, hearing case 2024-13.
This is a request to amend the plan unit development at Harbor 31 to include the addition of a fence at 140 to 146 Viridian Drive. The Lakefront Condo Association at Vita Nova has requested to install this fence. They've had issues with people trespassing on the property. There is a drawing in the packet, and up here it shows the location of the fence. It will not be gated. It would be left open through the parking lot entrance and open again along the boardwalk. So really it would restrict access not to the boardwalk, but just into the individual property. There are two public access points that will be built soon at the development, one just east of Parmenter O'Toole, and then one in between that and the new senior living facility, and those will be installed once that development wraps up. Currently, there's people parking in the Parmenter O'Toole lot. It's not always enforced by their ownership, so it does seem like an issue to these property owners. We did mail everybody within 300 feet. You've seen several letters of support and one in opposition. The one in opposition, I believe, does live at the residence, and I believe is here tonight to speak.
Anything else on that, Mike?
Nope, this would be a recommendation to the city commission. And there is, in the resolution of the original PUD, it does state about leaving public access open and to have natural landscaping. I don't believe this is an opposition to that. It doesn't restrict access to the boardwalk, and there is landscaping, but there is also a hard boardwalk there, so there's not really room for natural landscaping up to the water in that. So I believe there's still, I still believe that they're in compliance with that.
With the original intent?
With the original intent, yes.
Okay. Any questions for Mike from the planning commission? If not, would the petitioner or applicant like to address the planning commission? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name's Kevin Murphy. I live at 142 Viridian Drive. I'm also the president of the association. First of all, I'd like to thank Mike for working on this with me, and also mayor, commissioners, and the leadership of Muskegon. When I reviewed the initial denial, I guess that's a good thing. We had an initial denial of this project. There were two things that I just wanted to raise and just ask a couple questions and need some clarification, or we could do that at another time. When it said as much open space as possible, especially near the marina and lakeshore pathway, which I take as being the public access, which is you have site maps in your, which is to the east of 142, up to the east of the LFCA HOA. It's actually down in the nursing home. How much is how much space? So that's just a philosophical question. Is open space private property or public property? Currently, as Mike mentioned, 80% of the public access goes through Parliament O'Toole's unmanaged parking lots, which is right to the east of our property. It is causing most of the trespassing onto LFCA private property. There are also issues that need to be addressed regarding toileting, litter, drug abuse, unsupervised minors, but let's leave that for another day. The other trespass point is through Viridian Shores, which is an undeveloped piece of property that we're working very closely with the owners of Dan Hendrickson and Mike Hausman. We get bikers, walkers, skateboarders, dog walkers, etc., going through Viridian Shores, and literally, here's a map which is in your package, but here's our little piece of property. And we have trespassers A, which is Parmental O'Toole's lot, B, Parmental O'Toole's unmanned lot, which is after 5 o'clock, and on weekends there's cars there all the time. C and D are the Viridian Shores side, where people would come down, come down from the Grand Valley and either hit C or D and basically walk into our property. And just recently, we have had trespassers come through here and down our private drive, which we live here. Here's our detached driveways. And I'm sure Mike passed on to on 4th of July at 10 o'clock. There was a video. Did everybody see the video? Quite alarming. So my wife was here. But, she just asked nicely, please do not trespass on our property. And you heard the reaction. Now, trespassing is one thing. Acting that way is another. There is a police report. So A, B, C, D. And then we get people coming up this way. And we are not adverse to public using the boardwalk. We are fine with that. We're very nice. We have a pretty good record. However, when people use the boardwalk, here, and they fish over here all day, they have to relieve themselves. There's only one porta potty located here. So what happens is, they walk in the boardwalk, come on our property. This is the way it looked prior to a $40,000 investment that was jointly done between our members and Mike Hausman and Dan Hendrickson to clean up and fill in this big hole here. And our plan was to put, out of 31 acres of Viridian Shores, of Harbor 31, we're requesting 700 feet of fencing to alleviate this. There's privacy issues, security issues. Kids are asking us to go to the bathroom. How do you deny someone to go to the bathroom? It's a common right. So that's the lay of the land there. The fence is very decorative. Mike Hausman has commented that he is looking for a balance to set boundaries between private property and public access. There are no public roads or sidewalks here. However, my arts and crafts today. I gotta thank my wife. You can see, and you have a picture of it, you can see that, unfortunately, this is Oscar Pink. There are 65 unmanned parking spaces here, and there are 60 unmanned parking spots here. From that picture, you can see it's very easy to park your car and head into our property for whatever reason you want. And quite frankly, all of these houses have masters on Main. I am away a lot, and my wife has to sleep on the first floor, like many others. Other items is, there is a bike path. That's very nice, but people still come down to Verde Shores, jump on the boardwalk, ride their bike, electrical bikes, electric skateboards, fishing, all that stuff. And that's fine, but someone's gonna get hurt. So what we did is we, over here, installed riprap to tie into what Verde Shores has done. Because we were worried about somebody falling into the gap. Today, they'll fall into the riprap.
Right.
So that's for another discussion. And as I believe Mayor Johnson has confirmed, the boardwalk is private. It's a private walk, private property. However, it's just like a sidewalk in anybody's house that people are allowed to walk by. Unfortunately, people off the lake, if I was to go on someone's sidewalk and start casting, they'd probably take me to the hospital for evaluation. There are currently fences around, there are fences on Harbor 31. One is for a pool, for safety. One is for wetlands, for wildlife. Should there also be a concern for residents of LFCA and Verde Shores? That's a question. I mean, we're worried, the pool, someone could drown. We are constantly trying to make sure that we invest well in our property. But last Thursday was a very bad incident. The police who came to report 24-13950, his first question wasn't, did you get hurt? Did he hit you? He asked me, where's the fence? So here's one of our policemen that secure us. So basically, I wanted to address how much open space as possible. Lastly it says near marina and public access, and we are nowhere near public access. We're nowhere near the public access, and that marina is a long way off. So, and I think shortly is not the word to use when the public access is going in. I think it's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, because it's not even on the drawing board. The second item I would like to address in the report was currently the initial denial is based on number 140's opinion that the fence will do little to address trespassing concerns.
It's not a recommendation for denial. There's a proposed
Yeah, that's what I,
Oh,
thanks
okay.
for
It doesn't
explaining that,
really
because
have
that
much
didn't
of
make
an
sense.
opinion on this one, and
But okay.
there's already fencing nearby.
Gotcha.
on the Vita-
Sorry.
Separate one, so.
So
Thanks for correcting that, Mike, because I was a
Yeah,
bit.
that
yeah,
makes sense.
somewhere in there it said recommendation, but that's okay. Number 140 is only opposed to a fence on his side, which is common space, and it's the east side. And he is not opposed to fencing anywhere else within LFCA. Secondly, as Ken knows and I know, we've been trying to communicate quite to the contrary of number 140's numerous emails to the mayor, where number 140 was extremely concerned with quality of life and safety of full-time residents. You could read at your leisure pages 7 through 12. And you'll see that in the first bullet, he's opposed to the fence, but on the second bullet, he is very concerned and very colorful in that discussion. Last, several other points is our director of fence is part of LFC's common space and governed by LFC HOA bylaws, and we follow general rules of governing. To repeat number 140's quote, "A fence may do little to address trespassing." I would just make a comment and just say, please see the video. I'll serve popcorn. Lastly, I have a question. Is the fence required to go through the Harbor 31 PUD, since there are no prohibitions or rules governing the erecting of a fence? Somehow we got caught up in a recommendation that back on December 18th, we needed a PUD approval or change. Mr. Even, who is our attorney, states that the PUD, the H31 PUD anticipates the erecting of fences in the future. See page 3A. Thus, LFCA should have an option to install a fence, a decorative fence, that complies with city permitting of Muskegon. Thank you very much for your time. And Mike, thank you very much for your support.
Can you stay there a minute, though? So
Sure.
if there's any questions for
Oh,
you.
yeah,
from
absolutely.
the Planning Commission? Go ahead.
Have you seen continued what you feel is trespassing over the riprap that's been installed since its installation?
There are, I would have to say, most of the trespassing over the riprap are minors that are unsupervised. There is a lot of dropping off and kids there all day. Now, we don't have, I did put a draft of the rules and regulations from Harbor 31 in there. They are draft. We would like to propose to get some feedback from the town. Now, one of the rules that have been approved or softly approved is that the boardwalk is open till midnight. And that's because they're going to be putting docks and people are going to own boats out there. Anything after 10 o'clock is trouble, and we've had instances at night where people are with spotlights and so on. So, but yeah, no injuries yet, but that is our property, and we have insurance for that. But thank you.
And secondly, did you have a discussion regarding alternatives to the fence, including what was suggested as like a shrubbery or a hedge option?
Yeah, we have discussed that. We actually, since December, there's been two quite extensive, I will call, communications through email that was an option, and at both times it was voted down, that the fence was the best option. However, if we put shrubberies in and they're arborvitaes and they go 80 feet tall, I don't think that's what Mike Hausman wants. So, Mike has given us $8,000 to help solve this issue. And he looks for balance. He looks for residents' balance and public access. And I think he's trying really hard.
Other questions for Mr. Murphy? Thank you.
Well, kind of in the same vein, I'm just wondering, so it's voted down in terms of doing the natural landscaping barrier for the entirety of it, but was any consideration given to a portion of it being a natural landscape barrier such that, the portion on the waterfront side of the development is natural shrubbery barrier versus... No, I'm not talking about along the boardwalk. I'm talking about, next to E and A, the portion that is closest to the waterfront having a natural barrier, such as, say, if you had from that parking lot to the boardwalk or from that driveway near D to the boardwalk, a natural barrier, shrubs.
This is number one. Besides this here, A, into here, D is the most prevalent, and it's not people that live away from this area of town. It's people from Terrace Point. It's people from the surrounding areas, walking their dogs, skateboarders, bikers, and as you can see, we did not put any indication here because it's ungated. But we get from time to time bicyclists coming straight down, newly seeded grass. But I want to answer Ken's question. We had a request from number 140 to put shrubbery here, and he doesn't really care about anybody else. However, this is all common space, and we have to go through our LFCA bylaws.
Okay. I also just want to clarify, you mentioned, reference something that I said. I want to clarify that it is not a private boardwalk. It's privately owned but publicly accessible. So I just want to make sure that is crystal clear.
Listen,
that is not
I totally, I totally agree. And this is like a sidewalk on someone's front lawn, in someone's front yard. It's a sidewalk. People could walk it, they could do whatever they want to do with it, and Mike and I have had discussions, and I agree with him, people are, in fact, we don't really have too many complaints of people fishing. I mean, we have a fishing team over here. They come every day and they finally caught a big one. I mean, it was like, what are these people? So they're back today, so, but anyway, thank you. But I want to answer your question with regards to, did we have a discussion about natural areas for fencing? And it came down every vote, from the initial vote and two more, that it was, a fence would be the appropriate way. And it's only 700 feet in 31 acres. It's like we have the little house in the city and everything's being grown, and we're supportive of that.
Okay. Any other quick, Jill?
Yep, I just, real quick on the fence, I see in the picture, that's the design of fence that you're thinking, so you can actually see through it. Okay, great. And you're talking 4 feet, not like a 3-footer,
4 foot.
a 4-footer.
Yeah. It's the same fence as the pool. We want it to be consistent.
Ah, okay, okay. Thanks.
Other question?
What,
Leah?
what color is it going to be then?
Black.
Because the pool is,
Yeah,
okay.
black, yeah. And same as, I tell you what, we we now are sensitive to fencing. You'd be surprised how many fences there are in a 2-mile radius of our
I know.
marketplace. Some are 6 foot, some have
Yeah.
locks, we don't have locks, we have 4 foot.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you very much.
And before we move on to the public hearing, 2 things. One is I want to acknowledge that we did receive correspondence from people regarding this issue. The other thing is, Mike, there was an indication by Mr. Murphy that maybe this amendment to the PUD wasn't required. Can you address that? Because obviously we think it is.
I'm not really sure. I do believe it is, because the intention of the PUD was to always have free-flowing pedestrians throughout the development, at least to the boardwalk and public amenities. So I think it warrants the review, and I do believe it.
I think so too, but because Mr. Murphy made that statement, I think it's important for us to clarify that. Although your recommendation is to approve the request.
Yeah.
Any other
Further
questions?
discussion after public comment, yeah.
Pardon me?
Well, further discussion after.
Okay. Well, after public comment, we'll have a motion, and you can talk as much as you like.
I'm all set with questions too.
So now is the time for the public hearing on this matter. Anybody in the audience would like to address us, just raise your hand and I'll recognize you and come to the podium, state your name and address. And after that, we'll open it up to the television audience. Ma'am? Could you step to the podium so we could hear you and state your name, please, for the record?
Hi, my name is Vicky Thelen. My husband and I, we own 140, the unit that we watered down for the fence. We have never agreed to that fence. So the reason I'm here is because we have lived in the area for 13 years. I can say that when we moved there was rough, but it's getting much better. We did not have, in 13 years that I have been living there, my husband and I, before even all this other development, we never had any problems with somebody breaking into our house, breaking into our cars. Yes, there were some characters, interesting people, but the more the area gets developed, the situation gets much, much better. My husband and I do not, and first of all, another thing that I want to say is that I really appreciate that new logo for the Muskegon and what you talk about, openness and being welcoming and the vibrancy of this town. And for me, having a fence, we will, in the middle of the downtown, that will not be sending the right message to anybody that is visitors or residents in the area. We don't want people to not feel welcome. And personally, my husband and I have never had any requests for people coming into the bathroom, and we've been living there for 13 years. I do know that the Murphys, they do go and tell children and people that please, it's time for you to move. So they are more interactive. I was there on the 4th of July, did not see any incident. Maybe I was visiting with my friends. So we are not opposed to a fence on the west side. And we wanted, and we even were the ones that proposed that if we needed something to help out to create some privacy, to have some trees around. But I do believe that most of the people that come there are families, people from the area. I had to know some of them that come from the Heights, are from all kind of areas. They're very nice, friendly people, and I want them to feel welcome. I don't want people that come to downtown and see a fence around and say, what is in there? What are these people think they are? I don't like that, and I think it will go against of what the new PR is for Muskegon. We are welcoming people. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And great job. And I don't want fences. It really gets to the core of my personal values. I want people to feel, and I've been invested in this community for 13 years. One of the people that we are only 4 units, we always get voted down. They moved here 3 years ago. The other one in the corner, they do not, I haven't seen the owner in 2 years.
Well, I think you need to address the issue and not whatever issues you have with your neighbor. And, okay?
Yeah, correct. What I'm trying to say that the only reason I brought them in is because they're not invested in the community. How can you, if you don't even come to see the property, how can they feel unsafe? That was what I addressed. I
Okay.
know that that's something that we have to figure out. I'm not here for that, but I just want to mention that I care for the community. I'm invested. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I neglected to say when I opened a public hearing, this holds true for all our public hearings. We'd ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes, if you would, please. Anybody else would like to address this issue? Yes, sir. Please state your name, please.
My name's Russell Galemba. I'm a resident at Lakefront Condo Association. I'm in Unit 144. First off, I would like to thank the Commission, Mr. Franzik, and everyone here for considering our application. This has been an ongoing project for us and something we've been discussing for quite some time. I relocated my family here after starting a new business venture. Since then, we have come to fall in love with all of the great things the Lakeshore has to offer, and we are proud to call Muskegon home. We moved in during the emergence of the new Harbor 31 development. Before breaking ground, the surrounding area around our home looked much different. There was only a small 4-unit association, which is ours, the occasional fishermen west of the boardwalk, and the beautiful sand cranes that nested south of the property. At that time, there was a level of privacy and security that was felt that has unfortunately begun to lift. It has been amazing to see the progress in the area. It has also come with a significant amount of change. That change has created a lot of curiosity about the boardwalk, public access points, and what is considered private and public property. Only 4 units, LFCA spans a footprint amongst the residential development of Harbor 31, with LFCA consisting of 1.3 acres, and the development next to us consisting of 3.3 acres. And they have a proposed 30 units, 10 units are currently being occupied, the other 20 are under construction. Right now, we currently have a 3 times higher land to structure density than Viridian Shores. A lot more open space, a lot more area to walk, a lot more area up for interpretation about what is private and what is public. With the new Harbor 31 development, there has been significant increase in foot traffic. There's been a lot more fishing on the boardwalk, all hours of the night, and in the amounts of my count to the highest of 30 people at a time, following tons of disorderly conduct, open containers, littering, trash being left behind. Though we are elated to see the growth in the area and the community coming out to enjoy the same natural elements myself and my family have learned to fall in love with so much, we have also asked those individuals to clean up, be respectful to the surrounding area, and not trespass through or onto the LFCA property. With the lack of public access and delineated designated public walkways, we have been very frequently told to F off. It has been taking us from a feeling of safety and security to being uncomfortable in our own backyard. There have been instances where my fiance has been catcalled and even followed down the driveway, to my vehicle being backed into with the driver fleeing the scene. Luckily, since then, our neighbor has installed security cameras, and we've been able to continue catching these events on camera. There was one on the 4th of July that everyone has seen. As a resident of LSCA, it's not my intention to lock or block the public from the beautiful natural amenities that the city has to offer. It's to regain a feeling of safety and security. We are asking the support from the city to help us in the process and allow us to feel safe at home again. I absolutely believe in the growth of Muskegon. I believe in public access. I believe in people being able to enjoy all the things that I think everyone, no matter where you live throughout the city, should have the right to enjoy. But enjoying our backyard that is not public compared to enjoying the boardwalk that is two different things. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for me?
No.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Not to personalize.
Could you state your name, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Anna Murphy, the lady on the videotape. One of our neighbors in number 146 runs the videotape all the time. So if any of you need proof of what's happening, we can provide it. I think you've seen a few. There is some personalization happening, and I'm going to address that. If we're not in the neighborhood, why did we volunteer to be the president and the secretary of the LFCA Homeowners Association? I will never volunteer for anything again, number one. Number two, where we used to live 3 years ago when I came here to babysit for my grandson in Grand Rapids, and we decided this is a good place to commute to. I didn't want to live with them. The place was a prairie. It is no longer a prairie. It is a big adjustment for everybody, us, the small little guy in the middle, and all of the new neighbors who are lovely friends. We welcome, I have put flowers on the front of Viridian Shores to try to help them sell. We want it to grow. We want new neighbors there. In addressing the fence on your side, Vicky, I understand that you may not want to look at a fence right now.
Please address us, okay?
Okay, yeah, I'm just saying she might not want to look at a fence right now, but we have not even been approached to get what that's going to cost. And when you put in hedges, they just cannot be left to grow. They require. So that was why the fence it is an expense up front, but it's there. We are volunteer president, and we don't want to be attacked personally. And it's human nature. When you see a beautiful cut grass, you see flowers, you might want to be tempted to pick them. You might want to walk through that yard because it's easier. The whole east side, where the marina and the trilogy is, developing, you can't walk through the grass. So of course they're going to take anybody is going to take the least line of resistance and walk through the mowed down areas. To finish, coming through that, so we have the waterfront, we have a driveway, and we have garages. I back out. And if you back out, you could hit someone who's trespassing there if you don't hear the beep from the car. In finishing, also the fence is somewhat preemptive because there's going to be a marina that's open to the public that will be able to walk around that beautiful circle, go to the farmer's market, go to the restaurants, and come back to the boating. So that is going to increase quite a bit of people traffic on the east side. So that was why the fence was thought preemptively the best option. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your voting.
Thank you. Any other people who'd like to address this issue? If not, we'll open it up to was there somebody else? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I wasn't planning on speaking, but I'm listening.
Can I have your name, please?
It's Jamie Cross. I'll hand you my address. And so this boardwalk has been public access for a long time. And I think part of the issues are that it's not marked as public access. The public access points in getting to it are not marked. And I would say this is also part of a confusion in other parts of our shoreline and why things are happening. I do think as we grow and those docks go in and there's more people down there, I think things will change. But I'm not standing here to say for or against. This is more of a common thing, the need to have some information down there where is public access and signs and access points. And it's a problem not just there, it's throughout the lakeshore. So I just wanted to mention that. I think things will change. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in this audience like to address this issue? If not, we'll go to our television audience. And if there's anybody that would like to phone in and address this issue, they can do so. Tell me the number, Mayor.
Used to be there.
I know.
231-724-6721, if I'm
Thank you,
remembering
Mayor.
correctly. Oh, it got dropped down. Yeah. 231-724-6721. Yeah.
There we go. So if anybody would like to address the planning commission on this subject, they can call that number and make their comments to us. So we'll wait a couple minutes and see if anybody phones in. Thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and support to close the public hearing. Any discussion on that motion? All's in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion on the subject matter. Anybody?
I move to request to amend the plan unit development at Harbor 31 to include the addition of a fence at 140 to 146 Veridian be recommended to the city for approval.
Support.
There's a motion and support to recommend approval of the request. Any discussion?
Yes.
Go
Just
ahead.
in general, before even anybody's personal feelings get involved, I think that the issue really is about signage, and I think that the city needs to, where possible, see what we can do to facilitate that. Whether we can increase the visibility of the access that exists through requesting mowing to the other spaces. I think that will go a long way to alleviate the actual issue behind the request for the fence. And I think that we should be discussing that in advance of deciding what to do about the fence, because the fence might solve the problem for these neighbors if approved. I don't think it's going to solve the overall issue, which is how do people access the boardwalk? How do we encourage people to use that amenity? And how do they do it safely?
Okay. Any other discussion? Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would share with regard to indications of public access, and so I'm going to very briefly deviate from the fencing issue because that's what's at hand. But with regard to public access to the boardwalk or any waterfront public access on Muskegon Lake, we have committed money for this fiscal year to have wayfinding and signage so that people do understand where public access is and they can feel comfortable and confident accessing that. With regard to this is unique because this is private, and so we're going to have conversations to understand how that fits into all the other public access points that are municipally owned. It's good to know. I thought when I received this before that this had already been adopted by the HOA at your April meeting, but it sounds like it was just presented and is still yet to be adopted, which is the boardwalk rules and regulations. So I'll certainly be having some conversations with staff about that as that moves forward, because as I see the boardwalk, it can either be treated as a parkland property or a sidewalk, and there are different implications for whether it's park property, treated like park property, treated like a sidewalk.
No.
I can talk to you afterwards.
That's right.
Yes. With regard to the fencing from a planning perspective, and this will go to the city commission. The city commission can view things with a different lens, but from a planning perspective and land use perspective, I don't see any reason why not to allow a fence as requested. I know staff has discussed with the applicant and has made modifications to it, so it's not as tall as originally requested and different materials. So, and it does align with other fences nearby. I would personally prefer a natural landscaping barrier buffer. Shrubs than a aluminum fence, but from a land use and planning perspective, I can't see why we wouldn't or couldn't allow this particularly when you factor in the public safety issues as well.
Any other discussion?
Thank
Mr.
you.
Gower?
I'd just like to make a comment that, residences and private property, throughout most of our neighborhoods do have the option for a fence. And nobody's going to tell them it has to be soft or it can be hard or anything else. The bugaboo here is that, we're adjacent to what's considered public access. And these are things, I think this situation, should give us pause as to, how we define or design things moving forward for other plan use developments. But I really see no issue with a fence for private property. And things cut both ways. People do want to use that public easement, that public access. But I really think that public responsibility and civility should precede use of public access. And unfortunately, we do see, a lack of that on whether it's our sidewalks going through our neighborhood or on our rec trail, where people are getting tangled up in fish tackle and hooks, or all the caffeine drink bottles, floating around, or getting sworn at in your own backyard. That happens on my front yard when I tell people to go 25 miles an hour, on a 25-mile-an-hour street. And they tell me to get the F out of the street. So, our views have to cut both ways. Yes, we want to maintain public access, but I think in the long run, public access will only work where we have the public acting responsibly, civilly, and appreciating, what can be provided them. We're all in this together. So, pick up your dog poop. Don't scream at people when they're telling you to do so. And, for crying out loud, just be nice and do good. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Can't follow that.
Okay.
I just want to add that I appreciate when landowners consider the fact that there is a world beyond their own spaces, and especially if they have the wonderful privilege of having an opportunity for a beautiful view. So I am actually, I just wanted to point out that I appreciate that folks consider that it is not only their property that is impacted when they make these decisions, but that there are still regulations in place, and we mostly have to follow those. So best practices are a great thing to learn about. Not everything is a rule. Some things are just good ideas. So,
Anything else? Not roll call, please.
Commissioners Blake,
Yes.
Montgomery Keast,
Yes.
Mazade,
Yes.
Seifert,
Yes.
Willett Roy,
yes.
Gowron,
Yes?
Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries. That item will go to the city commission for their consideration.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next item,
This is hearing case 2024-14. It's a request for a plan unit development at 920 Washington, 965 West Western, and 1330 Division Street for additional residential and commercial development. The developer does have a presentation they're going to be going over, so I don't want to get too much into it, but I did want to talk a little bit about the process and some comments that we had on the plans. So the original PUD for the watermark included 5 phases. However, only the first round of condos and the watermark 920 event center was completed. So what they're asking to do here, since the development did not commence for the rest of it, that we would, in the motion, we would revoke the rest of the PUD and start a new PUD around the phase 1, which includes the original condos and the coffee house. So this would be a separate PUD from that, but in the same area. in terms of staff comments, we did talk about where the pickleball courts were located at the new parking, perhaps having a playground or some sort of other outdoor activity there for children that may be living there. They seemed amenable to that. In terms of parking, it does have a good parking plan. This is the underlying zoning is our form-based code, so we don't like to have too much parking since there already is a lot downtown and on the streets. This actually comes in under the 1-to-1 maximum allowed spots because they do have quite a bit that is covered parking, so that's good that we will not see a lot of that. However, there will be plenty of parking for the retail and the apartments and condos on site. Staff did have some comments on like what they would like to see, conditions on approval, and we have that on the separate piece of paper. We have updated recommendation motions for the Shaw Walker development and the docks. So this plan would still need to obtain a stormwater permit from the engineering department. We would ask that they add bicycle racks near the entrances to the residential and to the commercial suites. The Public Works Department engineering would like to see warning signage will be required for the 2 mid-block crossings on Division Street, and all utility plans must be approved by the engineering department.
And so, Mike, you're saying those would be the amended conditions to approval recommended by staff?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for Mike? No. Mr. Mayor?
When you say warning signage will be required for the 2 mid-block crossings in Division Street, what does that entail? That's just saying a sign saying
Yeah.
pedestrian crossing?
Yeah,
Is
it's
it gonna
like a
be
pedestrian-
push button flashing? Like what? What does that entail for a warning?
I think it'd be
sign?
to be determined, but it'd be something like that, a pedestrian flashing crossing sign.
Okay.
Is that it? Okay. Petitioner here, I think they are. Petitioner would like to address the commission or the applicant.
Yes, please. Thank you. I'm John Rooks with Parkland Properties, 75 West Walton. To my side is Rory Sharon. He's our COO, and we do have a slideshow, but before we go through it, I'll just give you a quick verbal summary, if that's okay. I think everybody knows where this is. It's where the coffee factory is located. It's one of the favorite coffee shops in town, at least one of mine. And we've been working on this ever since we bought the property on Christmas, basically, of 2022. And we certainly appreciate all the work that and the time we take from Mike and from Jake and from Jonathan and your entire staff. Really is excited about this project and has done everything to help us move it forward. And we also appreciate the city's previous support in helping us do some of our due diligence before we closed. It's 730,000 square feet, so it's a monster. It's going to do two things. It's going to fix a huge eyesore in town at your entrance to your community and at your exit, and it's going to help solve the housing crisis. There's more units in this single building that will be developed than have been developed downtown in the last 30 years combined. Its first phase was done in the early 2000s. There's 55 units. We propose to do 432 apartments that are aimed towards workforce housing or the missing middle to put a big dent, maybe a 15 to 20% dent in the current need, according to your own study, the 3,800 units that are needed for this community in that category. And good housing brings people, and good people bring good companies, because companies come to towns that have good workers, and workers don't come to town unless they have good housing. So it's a cycle that we think is very helpful for the community. We have the support of the Neighborhood Association. I spoke with Jen Sanaki today, but she couldn't be here today because of her tree problem on her house. And we're also going to do 69 condominiums that start at $275,000, we estimate. And those are the units that look at the water and have balconies, huge windows. And then we've got room for 37 townhouses that line the sidewalk to kind of hide the warehouse that we're going to convert to a parking garage. And then there's 8 retail units. So all told, there's 546 new units that will be added to this community. And if you add that to the 55 units that are already there that we're going to renovate, the ones that we own, we still own 35, there would be 601 units in this project. And about 900 people will live here if you figure 1.5 people per unit. And like Mike said, we're amenable to this modification to modify the recreation area to either, you know, have a playground instead of one of the pickleball courts, or just a big playground. But we think we want both the playground and the pickleball. So we thought that was a good idea and a good addition. Plus, he added a condition that we have to have bike racks. We have bike racks inside, but they pointed out smartly that we need bike racks for the retail visitors and visitors of the condos, so we're going to add bike racks as well. And then I'll just kind of go through the slideshow. This site plan, by the way, it's kind of weird how you do this. We've been working on architectural plans for over a year, and to get to this site plan, we had to design the entire project. All the architecture is now done. We just got the final package, and the last thing you can do is put your final site plan together. If you look at the numbering, Unit 1, the buildings 1 and 2 are the ones that are already done. Number 2 is the event center. Number 1 is the 55 condos. Our first phase will be building 3 and 4, the one with the courtyard, and the part that's now all red. And that is what comprises or actually that's not the first phase. First phase is building 3 and 4, and the second phase is building 5 and 6 and 7. And 3 and 4 is all the apartments of the first phase. And then if you look at this slide, it shows the 432 new apartments. There's 31 studios, 347 one-bedrooms, 44 two-bedrooms, and 10 three-bedrooms. So that's a unit mix that we worked on with CBRE, a consulting firm that helped us analyze the demand in the community. The next section is the 69 condominiums that look toward the lake, and 64 are 2-bedroom, 2.5 baths, and there's 5 one-bedrooms and 1 bath. The retail will be tailored to support the community, but also be an amenity to the project, with a restaurant and a bar, a fitness center, massage therapy, hair salon, daycare and pet care, and a small marketplace. And then the townhomes will be designed to screen and hide the warehouse that we're going to keep for parking, and but also will be facing the lake, and there'll be 3 bedrooms and a 2-car garage in each unit. It'll be very similar to the units that are next to High Point Flats that Dave Duzendang built, that everybody likes, and they've been successful, but they'll be a little bit wider, and they'll have 2-stall garages instead of single-stall garages. And then the blue building is the former Knoll factory that was built in the 70s. That's the newest structure in this property that started 100 years ago, and it's going to hold, I think, a little over 100 cars. 112 cars. And Rory may step in and correct me when I make errors. This green space is green space that is going to be added to the project that currently doesn't exist, and we are going to remove one of the buildings. The big box in the middle is actually the only building that's not structurally sound. It's a 1-story structure that you don't see from any direction because it's trapped in the middle of all the other buildings. And so if you called that building number 8, that's going to go away because it's the only part that's wood, and it's supported by just a myriad of columns, and you actually have to shovel it in the winter because it would otherwise collapse. So that's going to be removed and become a courtyard. And then this red space is a rooftop pool, a hot tub, and sun decks and clubhouses. Very similar, if you've been to Grand Rapids, to what we did at Union Square, which is at the corner of 131 and 96, and you see a swimming pool on the top of an old school. That's what we plan to do here, but this is next level. It's the high design you'll see in some of the images is way beyond what we've done in the past. Kafari Architects has done just a great job. So that yellowish color is actually a wood. It's a simulated wood, much like the wood on the convention center. It's a product that looks like wood, and then we highlight some of the accents with the red, and then we keep the smokestack to tell the old story of the project, so you know the history just by looking at it, that it's an old factory. Everybody knew somebody that worked here, a brother, a sister, an uncle, a dad, a son. So it's really cool that people will still know, and that's why we want to call it the Shaw, to give homage to the former founders, and also we'll have a restaurant or something that reflects Walker's. And then the condo project is on the right, and that's the part we sell, and that will help monetize the project in order to help support the cost of the apartments that, because of high construction cost, aren't really at a break-even point unless we can pay down the debt with the sale of the condos. This is the courtyard in the back. That is where that building 8 is basically coming down. And then this is the rooftop pool and jacuzzi. We're actually proposing a glass wall so that it kind of tells the story of what's up there from the road when you drive by, and we leave the lights on all night and people can go in there and hot tub and you see shadows of people in there. It'll be pretty cool. And then on the side are the clubhouses with accordion doors that open up to the pool. One's going to be reservable and one's not. And then there's a circular staircase that puts you on the next level roof so that you can enjoy views to the channel and you can see the sunsets and the sand dunes in the background. And then this is where the railroad track used to go through the building. So we put some steel back in the floor to try to simulate the old railroad track. And this will become the entrance lobby from both sides, both on the retail side and then on the residential side. And then there's fireplaces. If you've been to the Grand Rapids Airport and you see the tribute room to Gerald R. Ford, we're going to do a tribute room to Shaw and Walker and the history of the project. And then this is part of that same lobby, check-in desk, and leasing area. This is the only amenity that's for condos only. Otherwise, the amenities are open to the apartments and the condos, but this library clubhouse design is specifically just for the condominiums. And then this is showing how the clubhouses open up to the pool. You can see the pool in the background. The pool is actually perfectly aligned to look down Western Avenue, so in the winter you see the incredible Christmas light display we have, and in the summer you see all the bike time activities and everything else that happens downtown. You look straight down the street. And there's another clubhouse looking towards the pool. And that's the edge of a clubhouse just for some community space. And then this is a dark unit. We call it the dark unit because the cabinets are dark, because we're going to have a dark unit and a light unit. The next one is the light unit. There'll be no carpet in the units. It'll all be LVT and big windows. And just as we've said before, a variety package of studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. And that sort of concludes the slideshow, and I think I've explained what I need to explain, so I'm open to any questions.
Any questions from Mr. Rooks and company? Jill, Santa, and Leah?
Hi, Mr. Rooks.
Hi.
Timeline. Tell me about it.
So we are waiting on some of our tax credits. We also have to go before City Commission and get permission to start. We have submitted all our plans to, our first phase of plans to the City Planning Department. I think it's 1,800 pages, so it's going to take them a while to get through it. And I'm talking about the big set. And so there's a lot of detail on those pages. And so it's dependent on that. And then we do have all our funds lined up. So we're good there. We want to get started with demo and get a demo permit before anything. And we'd like to start demo in the next 2 months. And we'd like to start construction as soon as demo is complete, which would foreseeably take 5 months, I would guess. Yeah.
And on the back end?
On the back end, then the total timeline would be 24 to 30 months for the first phase. And we're going to start selling condos during the first phase, and we'd like to get that going while we're building the first phase and have an overlap between the first and the second phase to complete the entire project within 36 months.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Done, Jill?
Yeah, thank you.
Leah?
Okay, I have a couple questions. First of all, from an overlook view of this development, the majority of it is hardscape, right? So there is some green space included, but it's a large amount of it is hardscape. Have you, and I know seems far out, but when you think about all of these green spaces, I'd just request you to think about using evergreens, because all the people that live in all of these units all year long, all of those trees are deciduous, they have nothing to look at.
That's a good idea.
As you move forward, please consider that. But also, you said the character of the building is going to be similar to some of the condos downtown, so you're really kind of going for a more industrial look than, for example, some of the townhouses that are downtown right now on Play. So you're thinking more of the ones that are on Western, that have more of a kind of boxy look.
Yeah, actually, there's a project in Grand Haven called Portside Condominiums that he's even more familiar, more similar to what we would want to propose here. It's right next to my marina called the Wharf Marina, and Rory could probably Google it and we could put it on the screen. But they're a little more traditional than the ones on West Western. But as far as the old building goes, we are trying to take certain elements of the building and, like, for example, that tribute room, that's constructed out of the old windows that get sandblasted, get the asbestos caulk out of them, and then paint them, and then build the tribute room framing out of it. And we're trying to use in bathrooms, and we're going to make wallpaper with pictures of the old building and do a lot of things like that to try to tell the story and have some of the old furniture. We're online trying to buy some of the old Shaw Walker furniture.
You also show, thank you for the 3D visuals, by the way. I think that really helps tell a story and help people understand what you're proposing a lot better. So you have a lot of red in this visual, and if things stay similar to where they are, this development will be visible from the lake or from, points north. So will you be using any reflective type coating on your windows, which similar to the former SPX building, or this is just going to be kind of a muted?
Yeah, it should be more muted. Certainly nothing like SPX.
Okay, so nothing's going to reflect like a spaceship. Just checking.
I called that.
And then just kind of coming back to landscaping, I know this seems like a faraway thing, but I'm going to take every opportunity to mention it I can. The opportunity to use rain gardens and native landscaping. This is going to be your entrance. The whole city's going to see this part of your property coming through. Mostly right now they're going to see a lot of parking. So I think there's a good opportunity to kind of bridge that gap with native landscaping, evergreens, rain gardens, things that kind of incorporate people into their environment. There's a lot of concrete, so we have to kind of bridge that barrier.
I wholeheartedly concur with what she just said.
Like that.
So, ditto.
Ms. Mayor, you have other comments? You don't have to.
I'll hold off until we get to motions.
Okay.
before sharing.
Fair enough. Any other questions for Mr. Rooks? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now is the time for a public hearing. If anybody would like to address this issue, please raise your hand. We'll call on you, and please limit your time to 3 minutes. Anybody? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium and state your name for the record, please.
My name is Dan Leask. I'm a Beechwood resident, and I'm actively involved in the neighborhood associations. I've been a part of the fabric of Muskegon since 1982, when I met my wife. She's a Bluffton resident and grew up here since the 1970s. I've seen the city continue to evolve and grow through the years. During this time, I've driven by the Shaw Walker facility and watched it continually go into more and more disrepair. And I think everybody used to see that. We tour people through the city, and one of the things we do is always drive past that, so it's going to be nice to see it looking good. This building is an important part of Muskegon's history and needs to be updated and renovated. Parkland Property has completed many projects through the years, which have been successfully executed. I appreciate Parkland taking on this important project for Muskegon and look forward to seeing this factory renovated into a beautiful multi-use facility. I encourage the commission to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to make comment? Yes, sir, in the back.
I'm Tom Manette, 8420 Miko Drive. I'm here in support of the project. I've been through the building, looked at the plans, and they're amazing. The transformation of Western Avenue is going to be amazing when this is done. With Adelaide Point going on, this is going to finish off the biggest eyesore in the city of Muskegon. So I fully support it. The plan is amazing. Everything's going to move forward quickly, and apartments and housing that's readily needed in Muskegon, and price affordability. Because we're transforming an old building, construction costs are much lower than starting from scratch. So, like I say, I think we're starting at $275 for a condo, new construction. That's unheard of these days. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, we'll now go to the television audience. If anybody viewing at home or wherever would like to address this issue, you can call area code 231-724-6721, and you have opportunity to voice your opinion. While we're waiting, I want to ask Mr. Rooks a question, if you don't mind. At one point, there was about 1 million square feet under roof at Shawwalker. What are we talking about under this plan in terms of, rough numbers?
To include the first phase, it's 730,000 square feet, because I think in 2017, the one building that was the least stable, because it was constructed not just of concrete like all the other ones, it had wood horizontal structure, and it had the concrete and steel vertical structure, but it hadn't been maintained. The roof got bad, and it had to be taken down, or it was going to be condemned, or it maybe was condemned. So that section, that's all that parking and green space where the smokestack is the part that came down.
Okay. So I think the point is you're saving a large chunk of what used to be under roof there.
Yes, everything except for that, what I refer to as Building 8, which is the weak wood part that was left.
And the other space that you're talking about that will be parking that has already been removed, you did not remove that, correct? That was removed prior to your purchase of the...
I'm sorry, I'm confused. The parking that was removed.
No, a building, where the parking will be.
That.
You did not remove that.
No.
Okay.
Nope, that was removed in 2017, and I bought it in 2022, just before Christmas.
Okay. Any, okay.
Move to close the public hearing.
So I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
Support.
Motion and support to close the public hearing. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carried. Now I'll entertain a motion on the subject matter of the request.
I move that phases 2 through 5 of the original planned unit development of the Watermark, case 2003-16, be revoked, and that the request for a planned unit development PUD at 920 Washington Avenue, the Watermark, 965 West Western Avenue, Shawwalker Building, and 1330 Division Street, vacant lot, be recommended to the City Commission for approval with the following conditions. The applicant receives a stormwater permit from the engineering department, bicycle racks are added, and warning signage will be required for the two mid-block crossings on Division Street, and all utility plans must be approved by the engineering department.
Support.
Motion support. Any discussion on that item? Mike, you're good with that?
Yep.
That satisfies your need? Any other discussion? If not, roll call, please. Well, wait a minute, before we do that, Mr. Mayor, you said you wanted to say something. You good?
I guess the only thing that stood out to me, one, I love it. I'm glad that we're seeing it redeveloped, and this is one step moving that forward. And I'm so happy that Parkman is taking this on, which is a daunting project in and of itself. The only thing that stood out to me in seeing this is the balconies hanging over the sidewalk on Western Avenue, and they're pretty sizable balconies. And I'm just wanting to understand, like, is that a public safety concern? I mean, what other steps are going to have to happen to put those balconies over there? It looks like it's going to have to reduce some of the road in order to create a terrace, and then there's going to be the balconies hanging over the sidewalk. Like, that was one of the concerns with the previous building, is just the danger. Now this can be newly reconstructed and it should be safe, but like, can you help me understand the steps in terms of putting together the balconies and how we're going to ensure that it's, yeah.
Well, they will need an encroachment agreement for going over the city right away. I believe they have them at Lakeview Lofts.
Yep.
That extend over the sidewalk. That gave me a little pause at first as well.
Okay.
But I don't believe we had any issues since then. So
Okay. Yeah,
it is a good.
It's
It's a good comment. You know,
I'll have to take a look at that.
this is a lot more
There's
more
a lot
units.
Yeah. So this is the only thing that gave me pause. Otherwise, I mean.
Okay.
And then echoing what Leah was saying earlier, it'd be nice to have that addition in terms of the entranceway coming down Western and having more landscaping and rain gardens.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioners Johnson,
Yes.
Gowron,
Yes.
Willette Leroy,
Yes.
Seifert,
Yes.
Nazade,
Yes.
Montgomery Keast,
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Motion passes. This item, again, will go to the City Commission for consideration. All right. So let's move on to case number 2024-15.
This is a request to amend the plan unit development at 3400, 3460, 3474 Wilcox Avenue, 1875 Waterworks Road, and 1490 Edgewater Street, which is the Docks PUD. The original PUD was approved in June of 2019 and amended in June of 2020. Over the past couple of years, the applicant's been working with the Eagle Department of the state of Michigan to determine where the established wetlands are. It turns out there are more established wetlands than previously thought, which causes the need to realign where the development is. So they've subtracted, I believe, it's 40 of the residential single-family units and replaced it with some higher density buildings, approximately the same amount of density. The developer does have a presentation they're going to go through over a lot of the changes, so I just wanted to go over some of staff's comments on the plan and some of the things we would like to see change. Again, they need to get a stormwater permit from the engineering department. All utility plans must be reviewed and approved by the engineering department. We'd like to see the lane widths reduced on the streets. They're a little wide now. I believe they're 11 or 12 feet. We'd like to see that come down to 9 or 10 feet. We'd also like to see the bulb outs that are depicted on Street A to be eliminated. And also where Road C is, that's on the left hand of the site plan on the west side of the development. We'd like to see that road connect back to Road B. I don't know if you can pull that up. We'll come back to that. Also, the parking lot to the southern marina should be revised. We've gone over that with the applicant. We'll go over some of that to eliminate the big bulky parking lot, but rather introduce some on-street parking there. We wanted to note that the landscaping areas that are located inside of parking areas and streets will be privately maintained. And there is a map for the public and private street maps. Most of them will be public streets. But working with the Public Works Department, they would like to see a couple of them change to private if they cannot have a cul-de-sac. So we would like to have them update that map before it goes to the City Commission meeting.
Questions for Mike? Mike, I have a question. When you're talking about the parking lot on the southern marina parking lot, I mean, I only see one parking lot. So are we talking about the one that abuts the east side of East Harbor Town?
I'm trying to pull it up right now.
Okay. I think if we could have that site plan just left up would be probably helpful.
It'd be over here more.
Breaking the
Yeah, so it's the parking lot right under where it says Public Road A, in between units 31, 20 and 31.
Okay. And what is your specific recommendation about that? It just says be revised as discussed, but I'm not
We
sure.
have a plan we can show. I believe the developer
Okay.
has that. Do you still have that? I don't. Oh. Okay. He can describe it. We don't have it.
Okay, okay, so when we get to that point, the other question I have, and maybe it's just getting some confirmation, Mike. I want to make sure I understand. The applicant indicates that we're talking about a decreased number of overall units, and as I understand what's occurred over time, that the original approval had, I believe, about 238 units,
Yeah.
and I think it went to 245, and now
Yes.
it's coming back down to 240.
Yes. So they're in like within the 2 to 5 range of when it was
Yeah,
originally.
yeah.
Yes.
So okay. So
But
we're
it's a
back to about
reduction
where
in
we were
land
before.
area. Yeah.
But the amendment in 2020, if I remember right, went to 245
Yes.
with the changes.
Correct.
And so now we're decreasing by 5 units.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I would also, I think I forgot to add that a landscaping plan should be added as well. So that should be number 9.
You're talking
Asking
about a
landscaping
landscape
submitted to
plan.
the planning department approved, sorry.
Yeah.
Go on.
And that'll be for mostly the public areas and the streetscaping. We'd like to approve those trees. They did a good job of it the last time. They just don't have it in here this time. So
But you're talking about a landscape plan approved by staff.
yes, yes.
Okay. So I want to get some of these minor issues out of the way. Okay. So the applicant would like to address us. Please state your name for the record, please.
Good evening. Scott Musselman. I'm with Amphino Development, the applicant. A number of you have been through this PUD with me back 5 years ago, 3 times?
No, 3 of us.
Okay, 3 of you. So I won't assume that everybody knows everything about the development, but I'm going to focus more on the current plan rather than what's changed from the prior, but I will comment on that a little bit.
I think that's important, Mr. Musselman, too. I think certainly the what the current plan includes is important, but I think also the changes.
Sure. Okay. So the underlying zoning for this property is R1, and the original PUD was approved in 2019, and then there were some minor changes made to that after that time. You're all familiar with the site. It's located out here at the old Pigeon Hill. This outlined in blue is the actual surveyed property that is part of the application. It encompasses 77 acres. See that Harbortown is bordering us on the west and the north of this section. The Harbortown Marina Channel makes a border on the north. Muskegon Lake along the east side, and then the Edgewater plat on the far east also. So this was the original PUD that was approved, and what you see is a large marina basin being put in. All these salmon-colored lots were homes, or lots for single-family homes, which made up the majority of this plan. We did have a large condo building at the south end of the marina basin, and then some townhomes surrounding that. So high level, the plan looks very similar. We still have the marina basin coming in, but just a lot more green. The reason for that is we're leaving all of these wetlands here and surrounding area, all these wetlands throughout here, leaving wetlands over here, and you can see these dotted lines around those. All of that will be placed into a conservation easement. Total, there's about 9.3 acres of conservation easement being created on this. We have fewer single-family lots. We have single-family lots out here along Muskegon Lake, up in this area, and then along the marina frontage. We've replaced some of the density with a small condo building out here on the lake, condo building here. Very similar townhomes, row homes to what was in the original plan surrounding the south end of the complex and over here. We have eliminated the large condo building that was at the south end, and this whole area is just going to be amenities, pool, pickleball courts, a clubhouse, restaurant, things of that. So this development will include a total of 240 residential units. There are 125 lots for detached homes, 75 townhome units, and then 42 condo units, and those are spread out over 3 separate buildings. There's 18 in this unit, 9 in this one, and I believe 10-acre marina basin will have 106 docks in it. What's depicted here are just the docks that are private docks in people's front yards. There will be T docks coming out from this shoreline into the big part of the basin, and this entire shore will be lined with marine. As I mentioned, there's significantly more open space in this plan. In addition to the areas that are inside a conservation easement, home lots stop short of the shoreline, and this will all be public open space here, walkways through that. We have walkways. You can walk the shoreline starting back here at the pool all the way around here, and then within the conservation easement we are placing boardwalks where you can enjoy walking through the wetland and boardwalk areas. So this is our planned phasing of the development. This road coming in through the old Bluffton school site has already been put in. Most of you have probably seen that. So as you come up over this hill, you're at an elevation where you'll be looking out over this marina in Muskegon Lake. This area in green would be the first phase of the development. Include the marina basin itself, all these homes in this area, and this condo. Second phase would be the homes, condos, and townhomes, and the amenities on this part of the property. And the final phase is this section. This was our plan of public versus private roads, private being alleys or dead-end areas. Dan has had some questions on some of these, so we're set up with him Tuesday morning. Part of Mike's recommendation, changing some of these items. So just to walk through some of the type of housing, this area back here, what we would like to put in is just cottage homes. There would not be garages or driveways. They would be similar to pocket neighborhoods. Small homes fronting sidewalks with green space. Along the boardwalk in this section right here, these are small homes that front the boardwalk. You'd walk right off your porch down onto the boardwalk. Envision something similar to Nantucket style homes like this. This is an example of some row homes, townhomes along the entrance road. Show where this area is. So this section of the development back here, get to this back area, you're 30 to 40 feet above this. Dredgings coming out of this will be used. Green areas coming between these are boardwalks coming down towards the marina. So you would have homes fronting the boardwalks with all natural plantings. Along the road, heading out on the north side, so along here, these homes are on the opposite side of the street, and then between the street and the marina is a big public walkway. So this is an example of what that might look like. Home side of the street, you have a green belt. You have 11 lots that have boat wells dug into the lot itself, which will allow building.
Sweet. Oh my
Lakefront home might look like. Then, as Mike mentioned, we don't have a final landscaping plan. We do envision having tree-lined streets, trees in the meridians in some areas, benches along sidewalks, fire pits. There's one area that's natural shoreline is on the west side, those homes that do not get all walk going through them. So the marina wall itself, we do not intend, in most areas, we're not going to use steel sheet pile. We're actually going to use gravity blocks, so that as the water rises up and down on the lake. Boardwalks I mentioned through the wetlands, it would look like this. Covers what I wanted to present.
Mr. Musselman, you said, or maybe Mike, or you said you would address the parking lot issue.
Yes.
Can you do that?
So this area right here was something that DPW had a concern with, a large parking lot and the runoff from that. What we're going to do is eliminate that lot, widen this street through this section, put a little median in it, double-sided parking.
So you're going to put parking on the street? And based on what I heard earlier, it doesn't sound like you're going to have parking on any of the other streets. Is that correct?
No. There's all this section through here has parking on another drawing.
Yeah, right there you can see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
You have parking all through this section, parking on the street here. All these bump outs are parking on the street.
I'm sorry. It was the lane width that was reduced.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Good. So the parking lot we're talking about on the west side of Road A is going to be eliminated. Okay. Questions for Mr. Musselman?
Yep.
Mr. Manager?
So, Mr. Musselman, building BB, I note that the condos are 2 or 3 stories. Do you know what that particular condo's height is?
This drawing doesn't have the
Oh, sorry, it's that one right where your cursor is.
Right here.
Yep.
Yeah, so it will have some sections that are 3 stories, but then some sections that are 2 that would be balconies and
Okay.
rooftop decks.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
So one thing I'll point out, I say it's 3 stories. The ground level down at the arena here is 10 feet lower than the road.
Oh.
So
Okay.
from the road, it's only 2 stories up.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna take Leah's lead on this one. We're gonna talk landscaping for a second. Since we've been through this project a few times, I'd like to say, number one, this is the best plan you've presented so far. Two, about the buffer, there was a lot of conversation about the residents that already live in Harbortown, about buffering any noise and landscaping. I see you have trees on here. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you're thinking will go in that space?
So, as mentioned, we don't have our landscaping plan. Some people probably want to see views over the marina. Want that blocked, so we'll have some interaction with them and see what.
Great. Okay, thanks.
We had a very good relationship with Harbortown through this.
Good.
Would hope that continues.
I do too.
Maybe to continue on with what Jill said, what I've noticed is in many cases, you've pulled the development further away from the residents, the adjacent residents in a lot of cases, both Harbortown and then over on the Edgewater side as well. Particularly on the, I guess it would, I don't know, I guess it'd be the far west portion of your property, yes,
Yes.
that area.
Yeah, the south
That's
border.
created a lot more green space than what was there before. And then if you go to the north of the site, yeah, right in there, I mean, that was all housing before that abutted Harbortown, and so I would think that's a positive for the people that live over there.
Yes, these condos through here will.
And Mr. Musselman, can you, I mean, I think you've already addressed it, but if you haven't, I want to make sure I'm clear on it. There's been a significant change in housing type here, and and I imagine it's largely due to the requirements from Eagle with respect to the wetlands in order for you to get the density you're looking at. Is that
Sure.
accurate?
We lost probably 6-7 acres of developable. So when you're leaving a wetland down at a certain elevation, you didn't just counting wetland, but the grading coming up away from it. So we lost a lot of developable land, and so yes, condos, but we tried to keep them small. We don't have a large condo build. Condos and some row homes to make up some of that.
So talking about the wetlands, at this point, based on what you're proposing here, do you have approvals with respect to the wetlands from Eagle and Army Corps or anybody else that you need? Can you talk about that?
Yes, so we've been dealing with them for years, and in the last, I'll say 7-8 months, have had 4 meetings with them, which is more than we had last meeting, which was just this Monday. All the issues, we've come to an understanding in drafting a permit, so.
Part of the reason for my question might be a little selfish, because if you don't have approval, we'll be back here again talking about this.
You don't like that?
So yeah, at this point, you think you don't have permit in hand, but you're
correct.
Okay.
So, if I may piggyback on that, I mean, did you have a
I'll
No,
let
go right ahead.
the mayor and then Joe.
A little bit, but go ahead.
So, with regard to the impacted wetlands, you've gotten indications from Eagle that those are not the unique type of wetlands that need to and must be preserved elsewhere on the property. That those wetlands can be mitigated. And where have you already identified how you're going to mitigate? Like where you're going to replace them elsewhere within the watershed, or is that still a TBD for that mitigation?
No, we have identified a mitigation bank in the watershed.
Okay. Can you share where that is?
Randall.
Can you tell it so we can hear? Because I didn't hear Mr. Kane straight.
Yeah.
I'll approach you. I'm Chuck Kane Straight. I'm one of Scott's partners in development. So a couple things I wanted to say about the wetland, just to clarify a few things. They're shown in green here, but these are the wetlands that Eagle did identify as those very important wetlands. And the easement around them is important to Eagle because of the type environment that surrounds those wetlands. So they have to be kept like they are now. Okay, so as you see them right now is how they're going to look inside of those boundaries, but for the boardwalk that we're going to place through it and, you know, perimeter walls or whatnot. So Crandall Environmental, if you're familiar with the Muskegon River watershed project that they did, it's in the appropriate watershed. So think of what's happening here. The department is going to require us to maintain these 5 important acres and then surround it with the additional acreage that adds up to almost 10 acres of conservation. They're then going to allow us to impact about 2 more acres on site, but require us to produce 7.06 acres of mitigation. One of the highest mitigation factors used because they deem these to be interdunal. Now, we may disagree with the environmental stance that the department's taken, but we did consider when developing this and looking at how we'd mix the density into it, the kind of features it would end up lending to the project and back to the community. So, and I got to handle the wetlands, so thanks for letting me talk about it. Thank you.
Jill.
I just have one question. Where the channel comes out into Muskegon Lake, can you explain
Right
little
here.
jog? See how why isn't it straight?
So it's actually similar to what's over here at Harbor.
Okay. That's how it'll look.
But
Yes.
but it has changed.
It has changed, and the reason was we had Edgewater Resources. They did felt that this was needed to.
Off the east side. Okay.
Also eliminated all the steel out of this channel wall. It is now very low level, so at high water, you'll only be above the water line, and that'll interact with the wetlands adjacent to it.
Okay, so that gray or tan part right there is all stone?
This,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. And on the other side too?
This section right here are actually wetland plantings between the interface of the wetland and the.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Well, did you have something? Yeah, I'll let you go and then.
Go ahead. So this isn't, I don't think, addressed in this plan, and I'm not sure we talk about it very often, but with all these shoreline developments, we have an increase of homes, residents, and therefore light pollution. Within your plan, have you considered how all of these properties will be lit in order to reduce, especially as people are looking at the night sky towards the beach, whether that's going to be incorporated?
I'm having trouble here. I'm sorry.
Lighting. How will you address lighting pollution?
Light pollution?
Can you keep it down back there? So, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah. First of all, I mean, the only homes that are looking this way is these row of Harbor Town homes, and don't have a lot of homes through here, particularly these small boardwalk fronting homes. We expect a lot of these are going to be seasonal. And then get back to the entire Edgewater section, they are up over a hill, so that they see our development in a way. This is the only section of residents see our development. All of this is behind woods, behind a hill, and all.
So I understand that. I just wanted to bring forward that lighting pollution is more of a collective problem. It's not necessarily folks who live near you, but it's when we have lots and lots of homes in a certain place, it increases the light exponentially. So if you haven't already looked at that, I
Have
hope
not.
that you would take a look at it.
Well, that's a requirement though that the city has. The city has requirements with respect to cutoff lights.
It's got to be downward facing
Yeah.
and cut off, yes.
And then on that, is there going to be on-street lighting?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry, Leah, did you finish?
No.
Go ahead.
And then you mentioned there was going to be T-docks in the marina section, but that those are not shown on your plan. Is that correct?
Gonna be what?
You mentioned T-docks in the marina, but I do
Yes,
not
so
see
there
those on the
is-
plan.
In your packet, it does have the
Yeah.
packet for you, the one that you,
Can open it all the way.
If he wants to reference me, I don't see.
there should be a page in there that shows what the actual docks look like that were included in the application.
As long as Eagle's cool, then I'm cool.
So while he's looking for that, I'm bringing that up because I think that we've encountered several instances where what we see as a planning commission and what's understood as approved are not always the same. And I feel that the plans that we are approving versus the plans that are submitted to Eagle or any other entity are what we should be approving.
Page 69 of the packet has the T-docks called out.
And then for the pocket homes that you mentioned, the cute little cottages down, I think those are down on the right-hand side.
Yes.
I imagine that these folks have to park somewhere. So do you expect that they're going to be street parking, parking around the corner?
Yes, this section all through here has street parking.
Okay. And then you mentioned that you're not planning to use sheet pile in a lot of places,
Correct.
but I assume that you are planning to use it somewhere.
You have to in some locations in the tight areas.
Yeah, just for technicality, the places that do have the blocks will be over foundation sheet pile. I don't want to lead you to believe that. So essentially, the entire perimeter that isn't stone will be sheet piled.
Right.
Some of it will be driven and cut low enough to place the blocks on that foundation.
So
I
you'll
didn't want-
see the blocks, but there's sheet piled deeper down.
So including the boat houses, the visual that you showed included basically a seawall next to the house. So that's pretty much just a line of seawall there where those boat houses would be.
That will be all concrete, poured concrete walls.
I think that I'm good for the moment.
So, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, some questions. With regard to the waterfront public access, just, which would be south of the channel, it's broken up by that private property. That building there, the multi-family building there, and then that's private, and that light green's private to the waterfront. So, and if you look at the map on page 57, it shows the yellow dotted line, and it stops at that private property and continues again on the other side of the private property. So why would not have continuous public access along the waterfront there versus breaking it up?
This is the area we've dedicated as a public, south of that private property. This here is all part of conservation. That will be up to Eagle how they write those.
People can walk on over now.
I don't know that any of this will be accessible. Where we have boardwalks placed.
So it is accessible waterfront. So coming off the trail that goes throughout the wetland there's a faint line along the hardened channel. Is that supposed to be a boardwalk continuing to the waterfront? It's not the same color as the rest of the.
No, that's the conservation easement line.
That's just conservation easement.
Boardwalk comes here, over here, connects to this sidewalk.
Gotcha.
So which port, if it's
Public beach.
a conservation easement that's being identified as publicly accessible, but may not actually be publicly accessible, are you incorporating that, including that in your statistics for public access? Because you said there's 1,000 feet of Muskegon Lake waterfront access. And so that's part of the 1,000 feet?
At Muskegon Lake.
1,000 feet?
Yeah, there's a
There's
breakup between.
There's only 1,000 feet of Muskegon Lake frontage on the.
Well, if you build a channel, it becomes, I mean, that's the water body.
It's
It becomes,
it had a breakout between the linear feet that's in the basin and the linear feet on the lake. I'm almost certain it said 1,000 feet in terms of your calculation, because your calculation for the percentage of waterfront accessible property, linear feet going up from 51% in the previous PUD to 85% now, which I think is great. The more waterfront access we can have, the better. So I really do appreciate that improvement. And like Jill was saying, I think this is the best version yet of this PUD to come before the commission. I guess I'm just.
So this, okay, I've got this page up here now. This is the total amount of water frontage. There's 1,000 feet on Muskegon Lake.
That's the total.
55, 77 on the basin. Here is where publicly accessible.
Okay, so 365 feet would be on Muskegon Lake, the green belt, and that's inclusive of the conservation easement on either side of the multifamily building. Okay. Okay, so I personally would prefer there to be continuity there, not a breakup. Even though I would imagine that it's still going to be green space and there's not going to be a physical barrier, at least it's not being presented here, that there'd be a physical barrier. Still just would be a preference to have continuity of public access there. What's the reasoning for the cul-de-sac being relocated there?
That was done 3 or 4 years ago by this commission.
Okay, so at that time, the willow tree that's near there was a commitment that that's not going to be removed. That remains, that will not be removed, and the willow tree will continue to be there. Okay, and that's for Franzik. That's been addressed already.
I think you covered them all. I was looking too.
Can I make a comment while you're looking?
Yeah, but we got one more thing.
Are you good?
No, I've got a couple more things, but we got
So, Mr. Musselman, can you talk about, you showed us the phasing. Can you talk about the timing of that?
So Eagle said they're going to begin drafting a permit. I think we'll be fortunate if we can begin
Next spring?
Yeah.
Okay, and then construction of the residential units would follow?
following year. Infrastructure will take about a year.
About a year? So you're looking at maybe 26 before residents start being built? Okay. Leah?
Just was going to be another statement in regards to kind of landscaping and working, as you mentioned, you're going to work with your neighbor to kind of build that bridge between the two developments. I just want to, again, encourage you to consider evergreens because many folks live here year round and some views are great, but otherwise looking at trees with no leaves on them is not that enticing. So.
You ready to finish up?
Yeah, so which map I need to look at. It's the one that's talking about the public roads and the private access ones. My computer's moving slowly. Yeah, that's the one. What page is that?
57.
57. So what I'm wondering is the public road E stops and then it turns into a 22-foot wide private access street. There are other areas that you have private access, but they're alleys between homes, which perfectly makes sense. What I'm wondering is why you have a public road that suddenly stops and then converts to a private road at that point. I'm talking about just to the south of the multifamily building that we were just talking about. That I think it's CC. It's not showing up here, CC, but Sarah, can you put on page 57 so we can see that? Oh,
there we go. You said 57?
Yeah.
Can I weigh in on that one for a second? I mean, Mike, are these, or Mr. Musselman, are these the roads that DPW said if they can't be made into cul-de-sacs would need to be private?
The green and the purple.
Those aren't cul-de-sacs. That's
Yeah.
cul-de-sac. So the reason why I raised that is because that's going to the public access waterfront. So we're shifting from a public road to now a private road that's then supposed to get you to public access waterfront. So why is there a breakage in turning public road to private road there? So we still don't have it on screen. Can we get this on screen? There we go. Yes.
There it is.
So that, see how it shifts from purple to green? There's all the roadways are purple.
Right.
And then that one section, it shifts from purple to green, indicating that's now a private road suddenly. And can you explain why the necessity to shift that to a private road, particularly when it's meant to get you to the public access waterfront?
It's not a necessity. There's not any parking down there. We're not encouraging this to be a public beach that people are going to drive to. It's a public beach for neighbors, Edgewater to walk to and use.
Well, that's not truly public then. Like if it's meant to be just for or intent to primarily be used by just the people that live in the development, not the general public, that's not
Take
truly
that
general
back.
public to me.
If people want to park and walk in, they're welcome to. I mean, there's other parking in the development.
Okay. But so there's no on-street parking right there. So in other words, and we have no parking at the end of the cul-de-sac right now. So in other words, people would be moved to Edgewater, taking Edgewater to get to that public beach, which I know folks are going to have an issue with that. Okay.
Well, I guess what I would say about that is, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Mayor, but the previous plan didn't provide for that either. You know, I mean, if we're talking about where we are now to where we're going to be, it doesn't change.
Right.
I need to pull up the previous one to take a look at. So, I mean, that at least says public road. The whole thing's public road.
Yeah, but
to
you-
it. So that is a change there.
But you can't get to the property.
There's open green space. There's no designated trail, but people are going to make their own trail.
But there isn't any parking there.
There's no parking on the cul-de-sac either.
Yeah, I agree. And that, I would say, was an oversight when it was approved previously then.
Yeah.
Like, you create public beach that's not accessible to the public. Like, that seems counterintuitive to me. To say this is publicly accessible waterfront, that there's not a way to easily access it to the general public. So that's my pause. That's my concern in that regard.
Just by car.
And not even by car, apparently, because you know you can't park anywhere. I guess you could walk in or bike in, which is nice. But again, like you said, there's not a designated trail from the roadway to the waterfront. Now you could access it from the Edgewater cul-de-sac, but you can't access it directly from this new development.
And right now, you can't access that property either.
Through there.
Pardon?
Yeah, there are public sidewalks along that roadway.
Right.
Yeah, to the roadway, but not then to the waterfront, was what I'm saying. As Mr. Chair pointed out, there's not a trail coming from, so the sidewalks on the road, it stops at the multi-use building, but there's not any walkway to get to the waterfront.
Not sure what you're suggesting. I think a crosswalk on the road. What is
Yeah, what are you thinking?
I mean, you can't access that property now.
Well, because it's private property.
Right.
So, I mean, people access it, but it's private property. But now here it's being designated in a PUD that this is publicly accessible property. So it's giving the public the legal right to access it. And so if you're saying it's accessible in name only, but you're not making it easily accessible, it's not truly public accessible in my mind. And that's just my concern and
Just
pointing it out in
accessible
that
by
regard.
car. It'd be accessible by bike, by walking, by boat.
But again, there's no trail by boat yet, but there's no trail connecting from the sidewalk to the waterfront. So if a trail were added, then we can at least alleviate that access point.
So
the sidewalk is on the west side of that road. If we moved it to that's satisfy being.
I mean, that'd be nice on the east side, and then having a connection to the waterfront. That's the thing, is having the walkway come from the sidewalk to the waterfront, because we're designating this as publicly accessible waterfront, but there's no trail to get to the waterfront.
But I think unless you add a parking lot there or something of that nature to allow people to get to that point and then walk, however they walk to that site, I think is the same thing you're talking about.
Well, no,
Right.
as Jill just pointed out, you can bike there, you can walk there, but once you get there, you can't. You have to cross unimproved green space, and you're gonna. Folks are gonna create their own trail. It's gonna happen. We see it. We see it on First Street
There's
near
nothing
the
wrong with
post
that.
office, where people have, created their own trail because there isn't an improved one. So that's just what I'm saying is incorporating. This is a pretty easy fix. It is simply just putting
You just want something designated a trail. It's not a sidewalk, it's not a boardwalk, it's just a trail.
a public access point, an easement directly connecting from the sidewalk on that, what should be a public road in my opinion, not a private access road at that point, that then continues to the waterfront. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a comment to this.
So are we good on that?
Yes.
You understand what the mayor, okay. Let's move on. Or no,
It's
you
okay.
go ahead.
But I want to bring this up in context, and we just had a public hearing regarding a fence, and the issue is that even though there's public access, it's not clear how you get there, and so people, if we can use directed access, if we show people how to use a space, then we understand the expectations, and then neighbors are happier, and people who live nearby won't complain that somebody decided to cut through their back drive and cut around this way, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So it's really just looking out for the overall continuity of people who live there. And also we're very excited to improve any opportunity to view our lake for the public. So if we can show them and direct them how to do that in the clearest, safest manner, it's greatly appreciated and increases the viability of the project.
Can I get some clarity? Thank you. May I
Sure.
Can I get some clarity? Because on one map, I do see that section where we're just talking about the green section. It does say it's public road in one of the site plans or maps, and then this one it says it's private. So is it meant to be all the roadways are meant to be public, and that's just an oversight that stretch is green and designated private versus the alleyways?
I think that was the case, but after we meet with engineering Tuesday, we'll know more. Not want any roads that do not end.
Yeah, I could
Public roads. So.
probably help point out
Mm-hmm.
what Public Works wanted to see. Is this showing?
It's hooked up to my.
I think you're on.
Yeah,
you're
it's
on
on
your
hers.
screen, Mike.
Here we go. There you go.
So, Public Works wanted to talk about if we could not turn this cul-de-sac, that they would want it to be private from here to here. Same with this one. This could not be a cul-de-sac. They'd like to see it private all the way down here. Same with this one that was highlighted. And then this road over on this side from here to here.
Yeah, because there's no turnaround. for
So, and what we've done with other PDs is where it's privately owned, privately maintained, but publicly accessible. So, in the event that these are going to be privately owned and maintained, are we going to have a condition that they are publicly accessible on this PUD?
The idea to add that as a condition.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't have an issue with
Thank
that.
you for getting that clarity for me. Appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments to Mr. Musselman or Mr. Kanestraight? Thank you.
Okay, so one thing Chuck reminded me, and I think I mentioned it, but wanted to clarify. So all of this area within these dotted lines is conservation easement being required by Eagle. We don't know, we haven't seen their exact language. Wetlands, but there's a lot of open areas around the wetlands that may be available to walk through.
But your intention is to make a boardwalk through.
If Eagle permits.
Designated
Yeah, I
boardwalk
mean, I think
shown
that's
here, but-
important in terms of the public access.
Even private access.
Acceptance of an engineered wood boardwalk system through the wetlands. And I don't believe they're going to prohibit access to any pedestrian through the wetland. I think they're not going to allow us to promote engineer pedestrian systems through those areas. I was going to mention when you were talking about a path from the roadway or whatnot. So those are kind of rolling dunes in that area, very shallow lake systems that there are kind of, two tracks through or paths through. I think like if you look up at Manistee, by like Man-Made Lake and whatnot, they've stuck with those natural paths, let those get beat down, and then the marram grass, is well protected on the sides. That's kind of the style I think we would envision is entering paths through marram grass or whatnot. Because the department doesn't want to see sand everywhere. They want to see the system move like interdunal system.
When you're talking about Manistee, are you talking about the development on property that Sanda Products formerly owned?
Right, yes, a former mining site in Manistee, right?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you for that clarity and context.
All right, Mr. Manager?
I kind of wanted to come back to something that the mayor was asking about a minute ago. So so basically where the cursor is now on our plans, that's building CC. There's the two darker green areas, which would be public or conservation easement.
This
which,
one is.
Yep.
Yes.
So assuming that it's all beach from the channel over to Edgewater area, is it anticipated that there would be free flow along the lake there? Because I'm presuming it would all be beach in that area.
This section here was anticipated to be private.
Is there some type of a barrier that would be anticipated or? Yeah, so I'm just wondering about.
Personally, I prefer there to be just public easement along that waterfront. No, go ahead. Mr. Chair, you're directing.
You're close.
You slip back.
My question has to do with the boardwalk. You mentioned that you had permits in, I assume, for your docks. Is that your current permit that's been requested? What permits are outstanding?
So it's one large 2,000 page
Overall,
permit.
okay. And that includes the boardwalks.
It includes the boardwalks, it includes the conservation easement, land mitigation, and the marina.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So this is a question and a suggestion, I suppose. If you have not already contemplated it, what are your thoughts on including it? Which is basically a sidewalk from Harbortown to your development. Because we have the emergency access point, but I don't see a sidewalk, or is it just a given that there will be a sidewalk incorporated? I don't see a sidewalk.
We'll connect a street to Harbortown. We never objected to that. They did. So.
Well, I'm just thinking of sidewalk. I mean, I guess people can walk in the street because it's not going to be traffic on there.
Yeah.
We're just thinking of giving access, kind of inside. And Harbortown doesn't have
In this
sidewalks, so
section here.
You're talking about the emergency access that connects to East Harbortown Circle?
Yeah,
Right here.
And I guess you guys don't have sidewalks, and well, not you.
But in terms of if you're talking about putting sidewalks through there, part of that property you're talking about, it would dead end because part of that property is Harbortown property.
Right here.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess it doesn't matter.
Right.
Because
Put a sidewalk
there's not a
there.
sidewalk on the Harbortown side,
Right.
and so putting a sidewalk to nowhere. I just wanted to.
Now that
even though
emergency
it's not going to be a
access may
vehicle
become a path
connection.
people use to walk through.
Perhaps, Mr. Mayor, what could happen is that a sidewalk could go all the way to East Harbortown Circle, and then the city could construct a sidewalk all the way to Indiana.
We do have a complete street policy. Should be sidewalks.
Okay, I think we've had plenty of discussion by the planning commission, and I really do want to make sure we give the public an opportunity to talk. So is there anything else that you, Mr. Musselman or Mr. Canestreet wanted to tell us? I'm sure you have an opportunity to address questions that audience has.
Again, 5 years later.
Okay. Okay, so this is,
They have a copy of it. They could pop up.
so Sarah or Mike or whoever, could you put up the map for the proposed PUD, the colorful map? I think that would be helpful. That'd be helpful for me, but I think for others, as they address the issue. Thank you.
It's old one, yeah. There we go.
Yeah, if we could get that size. Good, thank you. Okay, this is the time for the public hearing. Anybody wishing to address the planning commission, please raise your hand and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. I see this lady in the back first. So if you would come to the podium and state your name, that'd be great.
Hi, I'm Karen Spencer. I live at 1456 East Harbortown Circle. My unit is the unit directly behind condo unit. My concern is my view is going to be of a strip of grass, a street, a parking lot, and the backside of a building that's going to be taller than my residence. Talked about wanting to encourage good neighborship. I don't think that's good neighborship. It's my whole unit is blocked and just sees the backside of I don't know what, not one of these cute little places. I'm concerned, as was mentioned, about light pollution. That's an open parking lot. I'm also concerned about noise pollution, people coming and going at all hours of the day and night. You should be aware that my unit, all of us, our windows face that direction. Those are our living room, dining room, bedroom. Our decks face that direction. And basically, it's destroyed. I mean, it totally impacts us, and primarily us. Thoughts on what could be done. If that unit was shifted, in fact, if everything was shifted to the right, that would be lovely. There is a parking lot that services Harbortown Yacht Club, and if they built such a large unit adjacent to that, it wouldn't impact anybody's view at all. If they moved it down farther, again, they're not going to impact anybody's view. But what we have now totally blocks me from anything but a parking lot and the backside of a building. Don't want it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And I saw a lady right here. Yes, yes, ma'am.
That's true.
Ryan.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Sherry Blaskovitz, 1683 Edgewater Street. The blueprint is beautiful. This is just a beautiful proposal. I was caught off guard on the summary, item 1, where it states that, hold on, let me catch. An additional street connection to Edgewater via Manhattan Street is to be added. And my understanding that this street was to be vacated to no longer exist. I don't agree to any road connecting to the Edgewater Platte neighborhood for any vehicle, residents, vehicles, emergency vehicles, or utility vehicles to have access to. I am not in favor of any additional street connections to any of the Edgewater Platte neighborhood streets, not Park Place, Arlington Drive, Windward, Manhattan Drive, or any other street. This would create a major effect to this quiet community of Edgewater. Traffic would drastically be increased between all of the residents and delivery trucks, service trucks, and visitors, and more.
You know, I don't want to cut you off. I want you to say what you want to say, but there isn't any proposal to connect to those streets.
Correct.
Okay.
It's
It's
a little
written.
confusing. It's referenced in the
Yeah.
in the summary,
Right.
but it's
Well,
not in the PUD itself.
yeah, it's
I was
not.
gonna
Yeah.
Ask and confirm that. Sorry.
Okay.
That was an old thing with another PUD a long time ago.
Oh,
that we
thank
didn't
God.
approve.
But I want you to be able to say what you want to say. And,
We already
you
said
know,
no
but
to that one.
But I don't want you to waste your time and talk
Yeah,
about
it was
something
number
that's not-
1 right there off the bat, and it was just like, whoa. Okay, so thank you.
You're good. That's a condition.
Right.
Gentleman in the far back.
My name is Jim Duchek. My residence is 3400 Sandock Court. And I would like to first thank Mr. Musselman. It can't stop progress. It's his property. I respect that his organization's developing it, and there's some really nice looking proposals. I'd like to thank Mrs. Willett Leroy for her strong comment about night sky initiatives. I think this is very important. We have a very unique property, particularly this specific parcel, nestled in the sand dunes along the shore of Lake Michigan by a state park. What we're seeing is more and more attractiveness for night sky areas. Port Huron is promoting that as part of their tourist initiatives. And what I would like to request is that Mr. Musselman and the Planning Committee do a deep dive and study very specifically the best ways to minimize light pollution by this development. I've been at locations in the southwestern states, such as New Mexico and Utah, that look very, very beautiful and are well eliminated. And I think we could bring this quality to Muskegon as well.
Thank you. One thing I did neglect to say is that we did receive a number of letters and emails of public comment. So we do have those. Doesn't preclude anybody from speaking to the issue at this meeting, but I did want to recognize the fact that we have received a number of public comments. Are you finished?
Yep. Yeah, that's all I had to say is
Thank you.
please address the lighting very seriously.
All right. Thank you. Lady way in the back. Yes, ma'am.
Bernadette Thomas, 1790 Beach Street. I have a couple of questions. I don't know whether they're relevant to this PUD, but as long as I'm here, I'd like to ask. Number one question, the school property through which the ingress road to the development leads, is that property part of this PUD?
Yes, it is.
And so what is the plan?
Well, wait a minute. Well, then that does need to be addressed because the maps tend to show that. And Mike,
No,
No.
it's actually not that piece. It's actually when it go. I was a little confused too when I talked to you. That's actually not on there.
okay,
It's going
that's
from
not
over it.
what I understood. So, okay.
Okay.
Then I stand corrected.
Okay, then
So-
this body probably really then has no idea how that land, the school property per se, what that will eventually become if it is not a part of this PUD. That's another group
Well,
makes that
it'd be
determination.
another proposal.
Okay, but that property is not owned by
Yes.
the same,
Yes.
you do? Okay,
Yes,
all
it
right. So at this point then, to my second question, I live, as I say, just around the corner on Beach Street from where this is all happening. Wilcox Street currently dead ends. Is that going to continue to be a dead-end street, or will it be restored to a through street as it was many years ago at that particular point? Or
Well,
is
it's
that
not-
again
it's
premature?
not included in this
Okay,
development.
I
so
just
that's-
wondered if perhaps there was a plan to make it.
I don't know if you want to
for-
address that, but it's not included as a part of this subject matter.
Okay, so the property and everything, that's all in limbo. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Peter Sartorius, 1575 Edgewater. I have, worked extensively with Mr. Musselman and the group developing this PUD from. There's been a boatload of discussion about this going back several years, and I think this is a much better plan has evolved. The question I have has to do. You mentioned Mayor Johnson mentioned the willow tree at the end of Edgewater, which was proposed to be preserved, as was the cul-de-sac. And in the plan that the prior plan, there was to be some kind of an community access at the end of Edgewater. Now, I don't see that there. But the question of access to this proposed public beach area is, as you have discussed, somewhat problematic. How does one get there? There's no parking at the end of Edgewater, and I don't think I speak for many of our neighbors, that we don't want to see any parking at the end of Edgewater. There are some scofflaws now that we generally call them on, but we don't want to see, I don't think we want to see a lot of people trying to access that public beach from Edgewater, because we're going to have a problem with people gathering down there, and the folks, I live towards the end of there, and I see one of my neighbors is here who lives right at the end, abutting 1490 Edgewater. So the question of access to that public area, especially if there's no parking, is of some concern. I don't know how people are going to access that other than by boat or by traversing, going all the way to the Edgewater and traversing down the beachfront to that property. As you know, we have a lot of vacation homes right now in our area. That street, Edgewater, which is now a one-lane street, and I don't know of any proposals what to do with that. But people, there's a lot of children, and I should say grandchildren, and children of vacation home renters are using Edgewater to access the Sand Dock beach area. And I wonder what is to become of that area and how that's going to be addressed. I assume that the street will be improved at some point, and we've always had a problem with people speeding on that straightaway on the north end of. Now you're putting the clock on.
I need you to wrap up.
Okay. We've always had a problem with people speeding down the straightaway from the curve on Edgewater to the end, and we still see folks going down there at 40 miles an hour. This is a big problem, and this problem's going to get worse when the street is improved and this development is down there and people trying to access the public beach area. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Hi, Blake Evans, 1712 Edgewater. I just had a quick question for Scott. You were talking about how you're going to elevate
You can address us.
Yeah, okay, so the elevation, can you pull up the map? So there's, that's backing up to Edgewater. He said they were going to bring all their fill up there and then elevate it. So are we talking like, is there going to be a dune that you're going to have to see when you're looking from Edgewater? Are you talking a retaining wall? Or? Oh, okay. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Doug Gaynor. When this development started, I was on the board at Harbortown and worked diligently with Scott to mediate and negotiate a number of issues that Harbortown had, and successfully. One of them was setback from the condos on East Harbortown to where their development, where there was a road originally, and they've given Harbortown significant now setbacks so that, excuse me, those decks that are attached to the Harbortown condos aren't looking over a road. So that was that was very important. As far as the lighting is concerned that someone just spoke about, there is such a thing as night lighting that's done in parks, and it shoots down so you don't have a problem looking up. It's very aesthetic. But I wanted to say that through all of this last 4 or 5 years, Harbortown has supported and in fact made motions to support this development. So we're very pleased with what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. No, you cannot. No, you cannot.
Oh, no.
Banking, time banking.
Any, anybody else like to address it? Yes, yes, ma'am.
Hi, Joan Eichenberg. I live at 1661 Edgewater Street. And just one comment. On the previous PUD approval, there was mention of putting in some sort of boardwalk connection off of Windward and off of Brighton into the new development so that the neighborhoods could be connected. I don't see any mention of that. A lot of people walk through that area now and they do a loop on their daily walks, and I think something like that could be just more accessible to the neighborhood. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kane Street? Sure, sure. Can you come up?
So the anticipated topography now is less than it was because the lake basin has been reduced to some extent. So those would have to be very steep approaches. So it was our intent that you would follow the road system to its intersection with that public part and follow through to the new cul-de-sac. So back to the path topic, right? So I think that's how we would promote a path. And like you said, if you're walking through there now, you're already walking on one of those sandy paths.
Right. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
David Calkins. I live at 1675 East Harbor Town Circle. We came here in 1993 when the first condos were built, and we returned there. So we've been there a long time, a couple different tours. My question really has to do with ownership of these different entities here. Is it such that outsiders are going to own the slips that are in there or rent them, or is it going to be strictly with the owners of the condominiums? I guess that's kind of, what kind of entities do we have that are going to have some power here? There's going to be a homeowners association, and is there a condo association or individual homeowners?
That's really not under our purview, but I'd
It's a
welcome
really
an
a key-
opportunity for Mr. Muslim and Mr. Kane Street to address that.
I
if
know
you
they
like.
have some idea of this, so.
I'm sure they do.
Yes, there will certainly be a homeowners association. 81 of the docks will be leased or documiniums. 25 are private docks in people's front yards. While I'm up here, I just want to, I'll comment on a couple other comments.
Sure.
The person from Harbortown that was concerned about their view, if you went back to the original plan, that entire north wetland was all homes, and two-story homes would block their view the same as this one little condo building, except now they also have the view out over the wetlands that wasn't going to be there.
Yeah. Yes. No. You already talked. Now we'll let other people address it. Okay. If you'd like to talk to him afterwards, you're welcome to do that. That might be helpful. Any other comments from the public? If not, we'd like to turn it over to the television audience. And so if there are people that are watching that would like to phone in a comment, they can do so by calling 231-724-6721. Sarah, I would expect we'd have some phone calls, right?
No, don't call. Don't do that. Don't encourage it.
Good. All right. If we're not having any more comments from the public on television or our viewers, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support to close the public hearing. Any discussion on that motion? All's in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And so I will entertain a motion on the subject matter, and I'll ask the mayor.
I move that the request to amend the plan unit development at 3400, 3460, 3474 Wilcox Avenue, 1875 Waterworks Road, and 1490 Edgewater Street be recommended to the City Commission for approval with the following conditions. 1. The applicant receives a stormwater permit from the Engineering Department. 2. All utility plans are reviewed and approved by the Engineering Department. 3. Lane widths of streets are reduced but to, we did not find consensus on this, whether it was 9 or 10 feet.
Well, we still need to work with Public Works and Fire to make sure that everything's good. So we know it'll be between 9 and 10. But
So, reduced to between 9 and 10 feet,
Subject to engineering.
subject to the engineering
Yes.
department. 4, bulb outs are eliminated on Road A. 5, Road C will be connected back to Road B. 6, the parking lot to the Southern Marina parking lot will be revised as discussed
Eliminated.
and will be eliminated and reflected in the PUD presented to the City Commission. I want the City Commission to see that. 7, the landscaping areas inside of parking areas and streets will be privately maintained. 8, a public-private street map will be provided and describe the ownership as discussed, with all privately owned roadways being publicly accessible. And 9, landscaping plans submitted to and approved by the planning department.
Support.
Have a motion support. Discussion, and I wanted to make sure, you went fast, so I want to make sure you're talking about, you did indicate the proposed parking lot would be eliminated?
Yep.
Was that, okay, all right.
Yep.
Further discussion?
More point of order after it's approved. Do we have,
Okay.
and this is just, not
What
understanding.
do you want to talk, does it have to do with the motion?
Sort of.
Okay.
Yes. I just want to confirm that we will be able to see a completed plan once everything is approved that the public can then digest, rather than having to go back through the documentation. So the question is, can the developer provide a revised plan?
Well, they wouldn't,
Dissemination.
they will need to do that to the planning department, and
Yep.
so they could, that would be a part of the record.
they will try to revise as many things as possible before it goes to City Commission, and which they can't. It'll have to be approved by staff.
But a final plan needs to be
Yes.
in your hands.
Yes,
And we can,
we can
if-
share that.
yeah, I was gonna say, we could do a Connect Muskegon page.
That was my great goal.
Okay, yes, we could do a Connect Muskegon page and have the plans up there.
Any discussion on the motion?
I do have a question for staff.
Sure.
It's with regard to the lighting. So the light posts that are going in, they'll be privately owned, or they'll be added to the city's. Well, we don't own most of ours. Will it be under the municipal lighting, or will it be privately owned lighting, or consumers owned lighting? Do we know the light posts?
We're gonna accept the roads as public.
It'll be
I don't know.
public streets, right?
Yeah.
So all the light posts will be, the city will be responsible for the light post. Well,
I believe
paying
so.
for the lights, but they'll likely be owned by Consumers Energy.
When-
Can we get clarity on that?
So generally, the way it works now with consumers is they have a baseline pole that they'll pay for. If we want anything different than that, it's the city's responsibility to pay for the difference, or the well, let me rephrase that. Whoever's putting the poles in, it's their responsibility to pay for it. Then to maintain it or replace it is generally at the expense of the city, but not necessarily owned.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The reason why I asked it was I'm just wondering if there's opportunity, instead of the standard light post going in, getting light posts that can be adjusted, such as dimmed during certain hours, to combat some of the concerns around light pollution. Obviously, when you've got peak traffic at nighttime, you don't want them dimmed too much, but during the hours when most people are sleeping, perhaps they can dim. Anyhow, that's just a side question and conversation.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioners Blake,
Yes.
Montgomery Keast,
Yes.
Zabe,
Yes.
Seifert,
Yes.
Willett Leroy,
Yes.
Bowram,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes.
So the motion passes. This will go to the city commission for final approval. Okay. Moving on.
Like the world's longest.
thank you for your patience and getting through the other cases. I know most of you are here for the Sandox property.
Oh my gosh, I guess.
Water real quick. What's the code? I don't know.
You can stay if you want.
There's too many codes in this building.
I don't know that one. I'll let you in.
Okay.
Okay.
I know. I always bring my own water.
Those of you who are leaving, would you please leave so that we could continue on with the issues at hand? You can carry the conversations out into the hallway, if you would, please.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Mike. We have case number 2024-16.
This is a request for a minor amendment to the plan unit development at Hartshorn Village to add fuel tanks outside of the building at 1100 Adelaide Boulevard. So this is technically part of the Hartshorn Village PUD, even though it operates sort of out of the Adelaide Point development. This would be the third amendment to the PUD. What they're requesting is to add tanks, fuel storage tanks on the outside of the building, which have already been placed. They're doing this after the fact. They're placed about 25 feet away from the building and approximately 200 feet from the water. They're currently being reviewed by the fire marshal. I believe they've gotten their state fire marshal permit, but it still needs to pass the zoning. It's being presented as a minor or incidental change. If the planning commission agrees, they can approve this as a minor or incidental. If they feel it's major, they could require it to follow the public hearing method, which would be a recommendation to the city commission and ultimately voted upon by them.
Any questions for Mike? Mike, do you know why they were installed prior to approval by the city or by the state?
I believe it was just an oversight, but I think the developer can answer that.
Okay. We'll wait. Any other questions for Mike? So the applicant's here. Would you like to address this matter for us, please?
So we originally put in the fuel tanks over by our Tall East building, had no idea you needed to get zoning approval to put in the tanks. So we wanted to put the tanks over there to help our customers fuel up their boats, and apparently needed a permission from zoning, so.
Okay. I have a question.
Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to, would you give us your name too?
Oh, Ryan Leesma.
I'm sorry.
RyanLeestma, 1204 West Western Avenue.
Is there anything, Mr. Leesman, is there anything else you want to tell us about the request?
Double line tanks, 1 year old.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Leesman?
Just real
Sure.
simple on the fire safety and those kinds of things. What kind, can you describe what kind of safety?
So they're double line tanks, and they have a system called Fuel Cloud on them. So if there's any sort of aberrations in pressure, it basically alerts the fuel provider. It's a brand new tank system. It's the same level of quality of construction as what we use for our underground tank system at the wet marina.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Are the tanks currently under use?
Right now?
Yeah.
No.
One more. Was there any communication with the developer regarding the tanks in advance of his application
What do you mean?
by the city?
In what way?
What do you mean?
Any previous discussion that we needed to have a permit for them during the site plan review or previous discussions?
When we realized that they were there, we informed them that it would need to be approved.
I'm just clarifying that you were not aware that there were going to be tanks
Right.
in advance.
Okay.
It's I'm trying to get my head around if this is a change in intensity of use and the type of use from in-out boat storage to fueling, and how that
impacts the operation at the site. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I mean, it's only for customers. I mean, the idea is, so basically you pull the boat out, put it down in a rack in front of the tanks. You have to do that to make sure the boat is grounded. And then you fill it. It takes 5-10 minutes. And then you drop it in the water. Very simple, straightforward.
It's not like a gas dock. I mean, it's not
No.
people aren't going to.
No, we have a gas dock over at our wet marina, but this is purely to increase the convenience for customers. And also it reduces the amount of overall congestion that's over at the wet marina too. So, which will be more important once we get our lakefront convenience store going.
Any other questions or comments, John?
I'm not sure if this is for staff or for Mr. Lietzema. This is relatively close to the bike trail. Do we have any idea on fumes? Do we have any idea on how this will impact environmental concerns just from people being in and near this? You also have a pool that you're proposing very close to this building. So these uses seem
Incongruous.
yes.
I mean, I guess, have you ever smelled gasoline when walking out of a 7-Eleven? It'll be fine, I think.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So,
Can you spoke a little bit about the operations of how this would work, but can you help me further understand or add additional clarity? So, is it the boats are going to be on the forklift and then you fuel from there? Or they're going to be
No,
on trailers
you
and you
can't
fuel them? Like, how are you going to be fueling from these tanks?
You can't fuel them from the forklift. That isn't
Okay.
safe. So we would basically pick the boat, we would put it over the floor rack and then lower it, and the boat would actually go on the wooden bunks, right? So
The boats are stored when they're fuel.
yeah, they are put down on racks. So actually,
So you're not fueling from these tanks directly.
no, we are. We're
You are? That
we're
you got
lifting the
hose?
boat out of the rack, and then we bring it over to a floor rack, and it's about that wide. And there's another set right here, and then there's boards on it.
So you're going to have a floor rack next to these then?
There'll be a floor rack there, yes.
Okay.
It's
'cause I mean,
movable. It's not like permanent. It's not mounted or anything. But we have the same floor racks for people that want to wash their boats. We just put them on there, and then they wash their boat, and they're happy. Lower the boat onto the fork, or lower the boat onto the bunks, and then we fill it, and then we finish, and then we just pick it right back up, and then we go back over to the drop. So it's an inline process that doesn't increase congestion at all.
Another question?
Is it safe to say that, or I'm going to presume that what'd you call that?
Floor rack?
Floor rack. The floor rack's going to go on the north side of that, towards the water? 'Cause it looks
I mean,
like
it
it's on
can
the
go.
north side of the door.
It can go on the east. You probably go on the east side of the tanks, because you want it to be, you want to have the filler close to where the hoses are going to be.
So it'll be in the background of the photo that we're seeing.
It'd be into the
Folks
left
can't
side of
see
the.
on
It'd be to
screen,
the
but
left
what we're
side of the
seeing.
tanks that you see right now.
Okay. So, no, they can't.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So it's going to be closer to this door. Okay.
Yeah.
So you could operate with that being shielded. If shielding were put around it, and it was a surrounded, like we do, we
Shielded
shield
around
dumpsters.
the
you know?
tanks?
Yeah.
We were going to put little trees around it just to make it a little less industrial.
Okay.
Good.
Do you have an example of another operation that's doing this in the same way that we could reference?
I mean, in Florida, every single dry marina out there has on-site fueling. They have on-site fueling at the wharf. I mean, it's incredibly common customer requirement that they be able to fuel their boats. On-site fueling is just part of that.
And are you basing this proposal off of the setups of those other businesses, or?
Well, I mean, yes, but customers want fuel. So in an effort to make our customers happy, have their boats ready for them, I mean, it's another portion of the convenience that we provide where they show up and their boat's already fueled and ready to go. It's the same reason why, for our lakefront convenience store. They'll be able to log on like Shipt, and they can fill their cart with everything that they want, and we'll drop it in their boat for them. We're just trying to make it as convenient as possible. Otherwise, they're just going around and they're pulling into the wet marina anyway to get fuel, so why not make it more convenient for them and lower congestion at the same time?
Are there any other additional permits pending for these to operate or
No.
required by any agency besides us?
You're talking about for the tanks?
Correct.
They're above
Laura
ground
or
tanks.
anybody else, or it's all
I
good.
believe they're being reviewed by the state fire marshal, correct? Are they?
My understanding was that they had been, but I think final electrical inspection is not yet.
So they do need permitting.
It needs an
City,
electrical
yes.
inspection, but, I mean, it'll probably be a little bit before we can get at it.
I would request that there's a clear understanding that there would be no operation of these tanks until all of those were complete.
Jonathan?
So earlier you stated that these are going to be on another building on site, it's Tall West.
Tall East, yeah.
Tall East, sorry.
Yeah.
Was the original intent that the fueling was going to occur at that site? Because I'm just going back to the different PUD amendments in my head, and when the discussions about the in-out operations, the fueling was not discussed. So how? I'm just trying to understand the progression here of going on one site to another, how all these operations integrate, and trying to determine the minor amendment form major amendment part of this.
So originally, those tanks were over there just for our trucks. But the intention always was that those tanks would be over at Dry because we can drive our trucks over there, like pickups and stuff. And, you know, frankly, our diesel forklift takes a lot of fuel, right? So right now we're having to lug cans by hand in order to fuel it. Well, it makes a lot more sense to have a fuel truck. They back up, they fill the tanks. We have it for us, we have it for our customers. You know, it's basically a net neutral in terms of, you know, total volume and such.
Anything else?
Are these being operated as agricultural then, or as point of sale? So are customers being taxed on the gas that they're putting into their boats from this station?
So the 87 ethanol, yes. The 90 rec, yes. The low sulfur diesel, I believe, no. Because I don't believe that you need to have road tax on low sulfur diesel for waterways use.
And I ask that because you mentioned that you have, machinery and equipment on site that could utilize the gas as well. So I just want to understand this is not an agricultural operation, correct? So it would be taxed gasoline regardless
Yeah.
of the user.
It's not an agricultural operation.
Any other questions for Mr. Lietzman? Okay, thank you. So now is the time for a public hearing, right?
Not a public hearing.
Oh, because it's a minor amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
If the planning commission
Well,
agrees.
if we accept it as a
Yes.
minor
Right.
amendment, yeah.
So, in order to do so, then we will need a motion to take action on this item. Is anybody ready to do so?
I can't find my notes, otherwise I would. Oh, right, I'll take it. I move that the request to amend the Hartshorn Village PUD to install 3 fuel storage tanks at 1100 Adelaide Boulevard be approved.
Support.
So we have motion and support. Does your motion include that, an acknowledgement that this is a minor amendment? Do we
You
need to
need
do that? We need to make a decision whether this is a minor amendment or not, or by
I would probably put it
acclamation.
in the statement just to be safe.
Okay.
So it's our
Okay,
determination.
you okay with that, Jill?
Yes, please amend it.
All right, we have a motion and support to approve the request as a minor amendment to the PUD. Any discussion?
I'd like to add that it would not be operational until all permits are received.
It's not included in a motion, so they would need to amend the motion if you'd like to do
I'd
that.
like to amend the motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
I agree. I'm okay with that.
It's a friendly
So-
amendment.
Friendly amendment.
I've got another one then.
No, well,
Well, I don't know about
well,
yours.
let's not make it a friendly amendment. I would rather have it be an amendment that gets voted on by the planning commission. Okay. So we have a motion and support, right, Joe?
Sure.
To
Yeah, if you wanna switch it, sure.
to amend the motion to include whatever you said.
I want to require that all permits are received from other agencies before operation of the gas tanks
Okay.
resumes.
Okay. So
Support.
so we have support for that. So and then if we're going to have another amendment, let's vote on this amendment first, and then if there's another amendment, we'll vote on that as well. So we have a motion and support for an amendment. Any discussion on that amendment? All right. Roll call, please.
Okay, Commissioners Johnson,
Yes.
Gowron,
Yes?
Willett Leroy,
Yes?
Seifert,
Yes.
Mazade,
No.
Montgomery Keast,
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
So that motion passes. So we can move on to the underlying motion unless we have another amendment. Do we
Yeah,
have
I just
another
wanted to.
amendment?
Yeah, I wanted. Well, I moved to amend it to reflect that there shall be shielding. I guess my preference. Well, can we
Screening?
have
or-
screening? Yeah, screening. But can we talk to staff? I asked staff about this.
We're still in discussion stage. You can talk about
I
that.
think it was mentioned about putting natural screening. Is that fine? Like we can just say add natural screening. Are there any concerns with natural screening being around the fuel docks here? Like I'm
I
trying
don't
to
know
get your
much
input
about fuel
screening.
docks. I think flammability could be an issue.
Yeah.
Just say screening.
Well, if that's important, perhaps
So natural screening screening and natural if possible.
Yes.
Or
would you be comfortable with subject to city staff approval?
yeah, that's fine.
So that way there's another step.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion for that amendment.
And I'll do the support on his.
Okay. So I have a motion support on the amendment to add screening for the tank with the provision that staff would make the final approval of what that is. Do you need to talk about this before we vote on it?
Make it simple. Can I just use the same trees that are there?
Unless they're flammable.
Depends on what they approve.
Yeah.
So
They
again,
say
I
you
mean,
can't
I
put
think
tree
we're
by
comfortable
tank.
with that as long as the
Yeah.
staff is,
Right.
working with them.
Yes.
Okay. So we have that motion on the floor to amend the underlying motion to require screening subject to approval by city staff. Any discussion on that motion?
Nope.
On that amendment?
I'm ready for
All
vote.
right. Roll call, please.
Commissioners Blake,
Yes.
Montgomery Keast,
Yes.
Mazade,
Yes.
Seifert,
Yes.
Willett Leroy,
Yes.
Gowron,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes.
Okay. Now we'll take a vote. On the underlying motion to approve the request to amend the Hartshorn Village PUD, subject to the amendments. Roll call, please.
Commissioners Johnson,
Yes.
Gowron,
Yes.
Willett Leroy,
Yes.
Seifert,
Yes.
Mazade,
Yes.
Montgomery Keast,
Yes.
Blake.
Yes. There we go.
Motion approved. I think
All
you're
of them.
good to go.
I always end with a joke. What does an elephant and a rhino have in common? Elefino.
Oh, thank you.
Fine
All
until
right.
it's not.
That's all right.
Jeez.
Moving on.
Sure.
Last but not
One more
least.
case 2014-24-17. It's a request for a site plan review for a new 15,063 square foot building at 0 Stebbin Roads, which is next to 200 South Harvey Street. This is the MASD's Career Tech Center, and they'll be expanding for their building arts program, and they need more storage space along with parking. They're proposing this building, which is zoned RM1. They still need a stormwater permit. Initial review from the engineering department says they'd like to have them eliminate one of the stormwater basins on the east side of the building and just keep one of them, but they can work with them then that during the review. 13 new parking spaces provided, and the site plan and elevations were included, and staff recommends approval.
Okay. Any questions for Mike? Does the applicant want to address this issue?
Still here, falling asleep.
Alan Majeski, I'm the architect for Concept Design Studio for the ISD. I live at 4103 Dunes Parkway. This is basically a building arts program, as well as replacing their maintenance offices, which were in a broken down old classroom by Wesley School. They keep their maintenance trucks here, district-wide storage. Wooded site, trying to kind of hide the building back in there, but it's just general use building, and get their building arts program going again.
I think it's fine.
Any questions for Mr. Majeski? All right, this is a site plan approval, so I'll entertain a motion on this matter.
I'm moved to. Let's see. Oh, sorry. To approve the plan for a new building at 0 Harvey Street, be approved with the following conditions. A stormwater permit is obtained from the engineering department.
Support.
Motion and support. Pick who you want, Sarah.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
No.
Roll call, please.
Commissioners Johnson,
Yes.
Bowron,
Yes.
Willett Leroy,
Yes.
Seifert,
Yes.
Mosaic,
Yes.
Montgomery Keys,
Yes.
and Blake.
Yes.
I'm
sorry we didn't. We're sorry we didn't. Put
Shortest
it at
item at the
beginning
end of the meeting.
You should have been at the beginning.
Blame him.
We're sorry. That's right.
Got your
It's his
application
fault.
in sooner.
I don't see our agenda, Mike, so I don't know what's next.
I think we did.
Just a couple of updates.
Oh, approval of the bylaws.
We did that
Oh,
last
no, we did that.
Oh, that's on the old one. Okay.
Yeah.
So just a couple updates. We have our Apple Avenue Corridor Improvement Plan, public input session next Thursday, June 18th from 4:30 to 6:30. It'll be at Lighton Park, which is right outside there. We'll have some interactive workshop materials and a little game to play about placing street furniture. So please stop by and check that out. And then the following Thursday on June 25th, we will have our zoning reform, our first of our zoning reform public input sessions, which is going to be here at City Hall.
What date was that?
That is Thursday the 25th.
Thursday the 25th.
What time?
4:30 to 6:30.
Anything else? Mike?
Nope.
Anything else for the good of the order?
Yes, because I'm sorry, I always have
Oh,
something.
I'm sorry. We also have a new planning commissioner. Lachey Simmons was
Yay,
approved
Yay.
on Tuesday, so you all get to meet her if you haven't met her next month.
Who was it again, Mike?
Lachey Simmons.
Okay.
The second, not the mother. Because the mother lives in the Heights, and the Heights councilwoman. The second lives in Jackson Hill. So just want to clarify, there's not a confusion there.
We also have a superstar in the room here. Too.
I sit on her board, so.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
You wanted to add something, Leah?
Yeah, it was not as fun. We keep asking for landscaping plans to be submitted, and I'm trying to understand what requirements we have of those landscaping plans, other than just submitting them. If we have any particular criteria.
It's in section 2331, the landscaping section
Right.
of the zoning ordinance.
And it varies by type of property. There's
Just
lots
want
of differences.
Folks to understand that we often our times are just like, just give us a landscaping plan, and we're not being very specific.
Yeah, 15 like up and coming nominated, one award Chamber of Commerce, like up and coming fab person. So we're very excited for you. Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
No.
For the good of the order?
Move to
And we're adjourned. We're adjourned.